Yes, I'm old enough to drive, damn it.
Oh.
Like unrestricted, like
Yes,
vehicles over
yes.
5,000 pounds.
All right, guys, we are live.
Are we
Hey,
live?
everybody, welcome back to the Mad LiberTEA Party's episode of Spilling the LiberTEA. We're here every Monday. Make sure that you hit us up and put us on that subscribe, like, all that cool shit.
Help us buy a wood chipper by donating money.
Help us buy a wood chipper by donating money.
A 3D printed wood chipper, please.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, why don't you post a PO box where people can donate you oil for maintenance, of course.
Donating oil. What a world to live
Just
in.
mail tax and gas to put in the wood chipper.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
The UPS guy just
supposed to
drops
do
off
that.
5 jerry cans in front of
Yo,
Paxton's place.
I mean, do you remember when the oil was down like under $0? That would be the perfect moment.
Yes.
Dude, I remember when gas was like 88 cents a gallon.
You're dating
I
yourself.
do.
Is anybody here old enough to be able to beat that?
I remember when it was 88 cents the first
Well,
time. Mike.
no, but I grew up
First
in
time.
California, so I don't think it was ever that long.
When I,
Oh,
when
well,
I
yeah,
was
that's
old enough
fair.
to legally pump gas, it was never under like $2.50 a gallon.
Look, I poured gas. I'm gonna calculate what the gallon costs.
Oh yeah, you use
I'm
commie
not sure
units
which
like
these are
litres and centimeters.
Yeah, we have those down here in Mexico, which is really
Hey,
interesting
guys.
because you know the pesos, okay, oil is based on the dollar, right? So what's interesting
Right?
is it's like the price of gas is almost always really close to the dollar exchange to peso, which is interesting.
Yeah, that is.
So it's like if the dollar goes up, the gas price goes up.
Go down.
I mean, it's
Yep.
not exact, but it's
Rough.
I never really noticed
Yeah.
that because I wasn't paying attention to the peso.
Oof.
I don't spend enough time in Mexico to care.
Well,
Yo,
Dan is our
interesting.
peso master.
I mean, I am now.
There.
I just calculated how
What is
much a
it?
gallon costed me for today. $4.90.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my
50%.
god. Okay,
50%
that's what
were
we're doing.
taxes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I
Good
think
You got
Lord.
have you got a VAT over there?
What?
You got
Is
a
that, is that because of a VAT? Because I remember being in the UK in
Yeah.
1999. I calculated the per gallon price in US dollars at like $4.25
Yeah.
in 1999, and probably 60% of that was the VAT cascading down from.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean,
crude to
VAT is not
producer
same. VAT is not the same as gasoline taxes. I mean, gasoline taxes with VAT are more than 50%. Like I don't know, 51. 51 is taxes. I mean, shit, that is a ripoff.
See, but if you have enough VAT of your own, you can just stockpile the gas while it's still cheap and wait for the price to go up.
So a
All
lot of
right,
the gas
y'all.
taxes in the U.S. are by they're cents per gallon. It's not a percentage. So if you think about it, if the price goes down, the percent goes up.
Yeah, because isn't it like,
Okay.
I don't know, like 10 cents a gallon or something? At least that is where I am.
I don't know. I think.
Yeah, well,
I
there's
think
state and federal too.
But, we have like a crap ton of freaking topics to cover tonight and everything that everybody put down. By the way, Dan, did you bring any topics with you that you wanted to hit on tonight?
Oh, I got
Just
one.
taxes and how they're theft.
Well, I mean, yeah, taxes everywhere. They are
You
theft.
mispronounced
It's fucking
theft.
horrible.
Yeah.
What did he mispronounce it as? Extortion?
He
Just
said
taxation.
taxes when he meant theft.
Oh, yeah. Extortion is theft.
They're synonyms,
Anyways, but
really.
like we have well, I mean, there a lot of shit happened last week. The cams, the dash cams for that shooting in Tulsa came out, and RBG died, and everybody seems to be really freaking out about all of that. People are still fighting over Netflix and cuties and fucking defending pedophilia for some strange reason. I've noticed that there's a lot of division going across our different lines and stuff. Like little.
This
and
is the
it
most
shocked me.
important election ever.
Okay, kick
Ever.
him out.
Isn't
They
that
say that every year, Dan.
that
Every year.
So I don't buy that. The emotion election was right when
They're
George.
like, I'd like to
got
choose
elected.
somebody different and vote by my principle, but I'll do it next year because this year's so important.
Right. Next year's going to be totally unimportant. I guarantee it.
It's never not okay. It's always not important, but they're never. But you're never gonna feel that way.
Right.
Like,
no,
I mean,
yeah,
these
that's a
people are
good point.
The most important election is the election of where your dollars go.
But we don't
well,
get to vote. in that.
everyone. I mean, I will say an election is not important if you know that the winner is gonna get a heart attack the next day or fall off the stairs. I'm not pointing a certain person.
They both
Or
fit
forget
the
his
bill for
name.
that, so
I don't know.
Or forget what
Uh,
job he has.
I don't know. Like, you know which one. I don't know.
I've just been personally kind of really confused about the odd lines that are being drawn, like in the liberty movement itself, and like everybody on the bottom half of the square compass, basically. Like this RBG stuff, we're fucking splitting up amongst each other, arguing because there are people actually like libertarians popping up to like talk about how wonderful she was and everything like that. And I'm like, well, I mean, she did a couple of good things, but she's also done like a lot of really shitty things that libertarians should really be unhappy about, like our guns.
Well, yeah,
It
she's
wasn't
like one of the biggest roadblocks in trying to get positive two-way laws passed or solidified. She's suppressed it basically by ignoring it or not even having the Supreme Court acknowledge said cases. They've been going down to the appellate and lower federal courts and being stuck in the state.
that might actually be a good thing. Like, if you think about it, prior to the last few years with this current court that we've had, there was never a sure, like, if this case made it to the Supreme Court as far as 2A cases go, we would never be able to be sure that the Second Amendment would come out on top. So maybe in blocking the Supreme Court from
I really
seeing
don't
2A
think
cases,
that's what
she might have actually done a service in stopping them from setting some pretty bad precedents against gun rights.
Well, the two judges that Donald Trump did have appoint hasn't really done much anyway, and they're supposedly on the right. So I don't see the next judge being, unless there's some emphasis on protecting the 2A. I just see the status quo repeating itself, ignoring most of the 2A and sort of focusing on minor court cases in some states.
We have to remember that Trump has passed more gun control than Obama.
Yes.
And he set the most dangerous precedent possible in allowing the executive office of the ATF to actually legislate law effectively in banning bump stocks and overwrite the definitions that were laid out in the GCA and the NFA.
He's almost.
So we're not talking
I
about
might
some
have a
pro-gun
comment.
president.
Just true.
I think that we should. I really liked the way that we were doing it the last time. What if we go around and let everybody give their take on the situation? We'll start at the top and go down. How about you first, Paxton? What do you think about this RBG mess? Is it good? Is it bad? Was she good? Was she bad? Do you think it's worth fighting over?
They're all terrible. Every single one of them is absolutely awful. Yeah, no, that about sums it up. I don't like any of them. I don't like anything that they do. The only thing that I like recently that I believe went through the Supreme Courts was I think it was a California law about magazines, extended magazines or something like that.
That was the
Where they
Ninth
ruled it
Circuit.
unconstitutional. Okay, well, okay, so not dude, fuck them then.
Well, fuck them too.
Yeah, fuck them too.
God, we can't find anything positive to say.
But no,
And
I
I'm not-
mean, as far as the rules go, the whole Democrats losing their fucking mind over this is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, if they want to play by the rules and everything, Donald Trump has every right to nominate a Supreme Court, and the Senate's job is to, then vote on that nomination. They did the exact same thing with Obama. Obama nominated someone. No one lost their fucking mind over that. The Senate struck it down like they were supposed to do. They voted on it. That is how this shit works. It sucks that Obama didn't have a Democratic Senate at the time. Fucking sucks for you guys. It's just how things work. But no, I mean, they don't want to play by the rules. That's what all of this is about, is they're tired of playing by the rules. I mean, this is, to me, this is the very pinnacle of us getting into the point of aggressive civil war. We've already had culture war, and I think we're escalating into it further whenever we have mouthpieces for the Democrats and socialists saying that there should be more riots, there should be more violence, we should be attacking people, we should be sieging the White House. I think it can only call for worse things. I mean, we've all seen all the freaking out videos online over them trying to nominate someone for the Supreme Court, and yeah, I mean, it's just causing more and more division, and we're seeing more and more that the Democrats don't want to play fair anymore. They're tired of playing by the rules. They don't give a shit about the Constitution. They don't give a shit about. Well, I mean, they've always. The whole deal is you have the status quo Democrats that still want to play along with the Republicans and keep their status quo and bouncing the power between them. And then you have the far left-wing Democrats that are tired of all of that shit, the Bernie bros, essentially, that are tired of playing all of that and just want to burn the entire system down and get the person that they want in there. They want to install, we'll call it communism, but essentially fascism into power.
Is this horseshoe
No,
theory?
no, it's democratic fascism. It's totally different.
What
Democratic
the fuck?
socialists are nazis.
TLDR, she's bad. She was bad. They're all bad. It's glad she's gone, but they're gonna replace her with somebody who's also bad.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's hard for me to think of,
God, you sound like my grandpa.
unless they like throw Maj Toure in there or something like that.
I mean, that would be pretty badass, but
Yeah,
I don't think we're gonna get
it's not
that.
Justin
Based off
Amash,
of
someone
what
like
it looks
that.
I think we're gonna get that chick. I don't want Tom Cotton, but what do you think, Dan? About the RGB situation as a whole? RBG? Oh God, I'm saying it in the wrong order.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, red, green, blue, or whatever.
Red, blue, green.
Out of me, cut out.
It's red, green, blue.
Yeah, it was at you. I was
All right.
asking what you thought about the RBG stuff in general.
So, all right. So, yeah, everything Paxton said is right. But
Yeah.
I think here's the thing: we're putting too much faith in another branch of government, another piece of government, to determine what our rights should be, what our rights are, how we should coexist in the world, and all this other stuff that the government has no real authority to decide, and we're putting our faith in it. And so, like, we have this group of people who are like, oh, we want the world to be like this, so we're going to vote for Trump, or we're going to vote for Sleepy Joe, like whoever it's going to be. We're gonna get them, and then they're going to do everything. They're going to be dictators, but they're going to be good because they're going to do the things that we like. And it's the exact same thing with the Supreme Court, because when people say, like, oh yeah, I get my people in the Supreme Court, and I'm going to do it before Trump leaves. So then it's going to be a Trump Supreme Court until they start dying. And so even though Trump only gets 2 limits, which is a bullshit, should be, we'll have Trump SCOTUS forever. So whatever Joe Biden does when he comes in is going to be struck down, and because all it is, it's authoritarianism in the courts. That's what people want. And so the real problem is not who we put into the court. The real problem is the fact that people put too much faith into this system as solving our problems, instead of understanding that, no, if we really want to coexist peace, we have to stop putting our faith into the government, realize that we're all different, we all want different things, and just leave each other the fuck alone. With all that said, I would like to see, so when Trump first got elected, he actually interviewed Judge Napolitano to be a judge. That didn't go through because he's too much of a libertarian. So, but I would like to see Judge Napolitano in there. And of course, that's only going to happen if we get Joe Jorgensen in the White House first. So go out and waste your votes. Vote for Trump and Biden by voting for Joe Jorgensen. How's that?
Man, I love you, man. That's what everybody says on the Discord server.
Is that what they're saying?
Well, that's what a lot of I guess a lot of nihilistic libertarians would say. Sort of like, well, instead of wasting your vote on George Jorgensen, just don't waste your vote on, they say, well, you can waste your vote, just don't waste your vote on Biden or Trump. And it's like just a reversal of you're wasting your vote on Jorgensen. And it's like, so we have a couple of yard signs in going out for that. Waste your vote for Joe Jorgensen or whatever. There, and it's like, okay, well, fine. At least I don't have to waste a vote on the next, Supreme Court justice candidate. Because I don't choose that. I don't pick it. So there you go.
What do you think, Max? We'll get the younger view here.
Well, you already heard a bit of my opinion on
Yeah.
that type of thing, but honestly, I think Dan hit the nail on the head. We're treating the judiciary like a second executive branch. We're treating their ability to strike down unconstitutional laws as if it's some sort of veto. But that's not really what it is. It's supposed to be strictly to protect our rights. And any judge that doesn't follow that should be tarred and feathered. But that's besides the point. We need to get a judge in there that actually knows what they're fucking doing and is willing to uphold the Constitution. And I don't see that happening if Trump or Biden wins. And we all know that the people who are voting for Jorgensen vote for both Trump and Biden, so it just cancels out. I really don't see a good outcome for this. I just see the Supreme Court staying just as authoritarian as it was before.
God, we're a bunch of black-pilled motherfuckers. All right,
Yeah,
what about
fucking great.
what about you, I3? Do you have anything?
Yeah, I just listened to the latest Dave Smith podcast, Part of the Problem. And in it, he said, well, the original Supreme Court justice was to make sure we have a small government. And both Democrats and Republicans, and partially to the Whigs and other third-party candidates, they have helped increase the government by 10, 12, dozens of times. And he ultimately said, it doesn't really matter because the main point of some Supreme Court justices now is to make sure we have an even bigger government next presidential election. So his point was that the original justices were the last Supreme Court justices to protect our Constitution and our government. Beyond that, they've increased the government ever since. And so if you are for smaller government, you would reject any current or future Supreme Court justices and just let the remainder die on the bench and then just let the states handle their own decisions. And that's my
strike down the roads.
He's like, take it all down.
Check it all down, man.
All right, let's hear what the bear has to say about it.
You only have me on here as your token libertarian.
Look,
I know
you're the
that.
calm dude. The rest of us are crazy radicals.
You keep our show legal, basically.
Don't
Yeah,
throw the
say
R
something-
word around
Say
there,
something
Mike.
that'll make the
That-
feds go away quick.
So I won't take a cheap shot at Dan for wanting the job that Joe actually ended up with, but I kid. I actually like Dan quite a bit. What I would say as far as Supreme Court, do you guys remember when
Yeah.
the Kavanaugh hearing was
Mhm.
starting up? Senator Ben Sass actually gave a really interesting and poignant speech about the politicization of the Supreme Court and how it was a result primarily of the legislative branch abdicating its responsibilities to the executive over the past few decades. And that way,
Oh yeah, I remember
the people end up being forced to express their political preference, not through the legislature, which is the intended political branch of our three branches of government, and instead investing all that in the presidency and the executive. And then the executive is who's, influencing the direction of the court. So the court, like everyone has said, the last 2 or 3 comments, the court is too political. It was never supposed to be political. It shouldn't really matter other than you have sober jurists on the bench who are there to say, no, seriously, dude. And they shouldn't have hardly any cases, any controversial cases. They should all be kind of boring and, yeah, they're the last stop. It's the job of all three branches of our government, supposedly, to defend the Constitution that they're all authorized by. So that said, while Judge Napolitano might be too libertarian, one of the front runner, I think right now is Barrett. Is it Amy Barrett?
Mm-hmm.
You could do worse. She's on record. She's publicly stated she supports restoring the 2A rights of, felons who are kicked loose. So if you're willing to say that on camera, that's kind of a big deal. Strategery moment, RBG was the most, quote, liberal, leftist, whatever member of the court forever. So even if Trump doesn't, nominate a replacement, it's not like a Biden administration will put in somebody more left than her. So that's kind of a net wash, in my opinion. But I would be lying if I didn't say that, if they rushed through a Barrett nomination and got her confirmed, that I would cry, because I would be, kind of giggling on the inside. And I will say also, there's a couple of, I wanted to give a shout out to not Kavanaugh, but Gorsuch. I think he's the sneaky one to watch. I think he's a mini Thomas in the making. He's got a lot of, he got nominated by Trump, but then he just went off immediately and started doing his own thing. So he's the one, I think, who will be key. If you want to see asset forfeiture gone, it'll be because he drugged that case to the court and won't let him ignore it. So I think we're going to see an asset forfeiture case in the next term, presidential term, maybe. I hope. 2A cases, really, I don't know that we need very many more 2A cases immediately past enforcing McDonald v. Chicago on all the circuits, because they're just flat ignoring it. So let's see what happens there. But what was the other question? We've got Supreme Court nominee.
How was she? I don't know.
Next question is, who the
How do
hell's
you-
going to repeal the NFA? Because the legislature isn't going to do it.
Right. Well, we all want to see that gone. We all want to see all of them gone.
Do you think it's something that we should, as a liberty movement, be sitting around arguing about all the time, though? Like, holy crap!
I actually
There's
don't
things
think.
going on.
I think that 2A in general isn't something that libertarians of generally any stripe argue about.
I mean, the RBG shit. Like, they're out there arguing with each other over whether or not she was a good person or a good citizen. And I'm like, why? Why are we
It
arguing
makes no
about
difference at this point.
The social rule is you don't speak ill of the dead. She's gone. Her family is grieving. You need to let that go, probably.
Somebody is in pain right
Nobody
now.
expected her to be a champion of gun rights. To me, honestly, if you're looking at the court now, the biggest threat is probably the Chief Justice. He's the squish, right? He's the one that caved on Obamacare, among other things. So,
Groda. All right, well, let's get the foreigner's point of view.
I had one last point. Sorry, because Maxwell talked about Obama wasn't as bad as Trump.
I said
Obama
that? Why did I say that?
Obama was smarter than Trump. He just did his gun control behind the scenes, using people like the FDIC, Operation Choke Point, banks,
Yes,
the DEA,
but
audits,
it's the
that kind of
precedent
stuff.
that was set by the bump stock ban that really scares me. Because I feel like if Biden is going to get his assault weapons ban done, it's going to be through that.
He had his chance. We've already had that. I remember that.
We've already lost.
So what does all this shit look like to you from over there, Deco? Aside
Why?
from insanely autistic.
Why? Okay. What should I say? The system on itself, it sounds like how the election of the Pope works. Okay, you're Protestants, all of them. Why should I even explain to you? You don't even care and you will stab the Pope at first sight. Whatever. You know how the Pope is voted or what the Pope even is.
I mean, like, I don't even know what the Pope's supposed to do. I just know he speaks for God.
I mean, he speaks for God, but not for your branch. I don't know. Whatever. Okay. He gets voted like that. That like some circle jerk votes like for the Pope, and he keeps on that role like until his death or until his resignation. So I don't know. It sounds like I don't know. There's similarities between the vote between the Pope and the Supreme Court. So it's like circle jerk vote someone for life. I don't know. And you know what I do with Catholic people when they do Catholic things. Ah, damn it, Paxton's not here. Vote chipper! Vote chipper!
He's just grabbing a beer real quick, y'all. But for some reason it's giving him my icon. It's making me
You
upset.
know who else is Catholic though? The French.
We screwed up the order and shit now. But like I guess
My
I'm the
turn
last
again?
person left over anyways, so like but
Dan gets ending remarks.
Dan did this on purpose. He just wanted to get in at the end. No, I mean
No,
honestly, what Dan said though is a perfect example of why I feel that it's not ethical or even moral to get involved on the national level, because it is a use of force, and you are using the government as if it was a gun. If it helps them to divide us up into groups. It hyper polarizes us, which is what's got us out there fucking hurting each other in the streets literally right now. And you know, like I feel like it's just a fucking game. Like we don't actually have any real say in who goes in and who goes out of this fucking situation here. And everybody here is right. It doesn't really matter which president we get in there. We're still gonna get some statist in the place. And it's gonna be whoever they think is gonna fucking serve their needs the most. And if they turn out to be decent, then we're fucking lucky. But they're all still fucking statists, and I'm not really fond of any of them. I'm not gonna like cheer for somebody's death. I don't feel like that's appropriate. But I don't feel like we should be out here arguing about it like we are. I think that that's ridiculous. And I feel like we keep getting caught in the trap of like the narrative. And I feel like us as Liberty people, we ought to fucking know better, shouldn't we? Like, why are people eating up this crap and getting drawn into the sides of it? Like, we used to go to concerts and like some of my friends were pussies and they wanted to avoid the mosh pits and stuff, right? So like me and my other friends would like edge them closer to the edge of where the mosh pits would move around, and slowly before you knew it, they would just get sucked in at the side and carried off with it. That's what seems to be happening here. Like,
Seems like you broke your
media
friend's neck.
is gently buffering people towards the edges of the mosh pit, and you're getting sucked in.
dude, so when I was like maybe 21, 22, something like that, I had been working under the table, and so like I was like, man, is the IRS going to track me down? Are they going to try to tax all this money that I haven't been paying taxes on? So I was like, I had no idea how the system works. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go get a job at a TGI Fridays doing fucking nothing. Like, just like where like, I don't even care if they fire me, but just so I can have something that like the IRS gets. That was my mentality. Right. And I was like, I don't care. I don't give two shits about this job. Like, I had saved up a little bit of money. I was like, I moved to the Valley in LA. I was like, I'm just going to fucking spend the next year just fucking drinking and partying, and that's it, right? And this stupid little job to give to the IRS. And within like fucking 6 months, I was like just wrapped up in all that fucking drama of like all the servers and like all the, like, it was like, you can't avoid it. You get sucked in. And that's exactly what the Libertarian Party is for a large part. That's what politics is.
Well, it's not just the libertarians, though. It's like it's
every party.
into everything.
The Green
Yeah.
That's what politics is.
Well, a lot of the fighting that libertarians do doesn't even originate from within the Libertarian Party. It comes from outside, because we're still all watching. I'm not. They're still watching Fox News and CNN and the mainstream media and reading their newspapers, which is where all this bullshit comes from. And they're still friends with people who are sharing the shit on Facebook and Twitter, and they fall into it.
Yeah.
That's why we need our own echo
I have
chamber.
to watch that shit because I'm terrified about what the fuck they're gonna tell them next, because like
Yeah.
people won't stop watching them. So like I even tune in and I'm like, oh, for God's sake, this is gonna cause a problem tomorrow. You know, but
I get all my news from Mike, so.
But it's like it's like a different kind of it's a different level of woke, I guess. I mean, like Bear was talking about libertarians don't really fight over Second Amendment. I've seen some of them, but it's like a lot of that comes from the same thing. Like some of them are like, a lot of them are just like, yeah, we get it. And then others are like, well, there should be some limitations. And like, it's, because they're all coming from different places. They're all different levels. And we don't have like a system where we educate each other and kind of, I don't know. It's like usually the people who have been there long enough and like are so fed up with government that they turn into anarchists. They're usually just like, I don't want anything to do with you. I don't want to teach you why I think my way is better. I just want you to leave me alone and fuck off. And then it's like, okay, but now you're just like, you're leaving the polluted cesspool to be the polluted cesspool and not helping to clean the rest of the pool so that like we can all have a nice place to swim.
yeah.
This is a perfect transition. Mike, should we segue this?
Well, that's
Because
what
I
I was
think-
saying. We were probably that's what I was already doing, and
Yeah,
you
'cause-
ruined the smooth transition, you little shit.
Suck it, Mike.
We're going
know.
to
have
talk
a
about
huge
private property
issue
versus
of armchair activists,
personal property.
people who act
Well,
like they're making this
no,
sort of huge change.
That's not
these
what I
woke
was
people.
segueing straight into. But I mean, we
Well, guess
could
what?
get to
My
that.
segue was better.
Your segue was
So,
crap.
Suck it,
Actually,
Mike.
we were naturally
So-
we were naturally segueing into talking about the division that we're allowing to creep in on us by huffing MSM fumes.
Oh,
Like,
mine's
to
better.
be honest, like I think that we will get to that though. And I'm still fucking flabbergasted by the amount of fucking libertarians and ANCAPs specifically out there that are like, well, I have to vote for Trump still. Like,
ANCAPs vote for Trump? What the fuck?
ANCAPs vote?
I'm really confused about ANCAPs voting. That bothers me all to begin with. It's a whole different fucking level. I'm like, why are you fucking voting?
Yeah,
You
I'm a
don't fucking participate. But
I'm
like,
a retard. I'm sorry.
I've met people who are like, well, more in the right-leaning areas of anarcho and minarchia, anarchotopia and anarchia, or in minarchia over here, that believe that they have to vote for Trump because if they don't, Biden will win and everything will go to shit.
Sheesh.
And I mean, most people on both sides really seem to be actually terrified into voting for the person they're voting for, instead of actually following their platforms. Because I'm like having a hard time figuring out exactly what any of the platforms really are. First off, like, does anybody really know what these two dudes are running on? Aside
have
from I'm not
platforms?
Trump and I'm not Biden.
They're
They
wearing
don't
my
have
gang
platforms
colors.
anymore.
Yeah, like that's
they
what
have
it
your
feels like.
king
It feels like
colors.
gang colors. And like we have all of these liberty minded people that are constantly going around going, wake up, sheeple, stop listening to the media and crap. And then when I try to explain to them that like things like Antifa or the book boys are not what they fucking think they are, because we have like left-leaning liberty people and anarchos and stuff like that that have fallen for the fucking Kool-Aid from the media, and they're like, oh well, these book boys out there, they're obviously white supremacists. And I'm like, have you looked at the fucking pictures? Have you even fucking looked
Look-
at them? Like,
Look-
are you serious? No. And then we have, like the other people who are like, the Antifa are around every goddamn corner gonna fucking kill us. You gotta take your fucking AKs and your SKS to go to the fucking mailbox. And I'm like, oh my God, what? Okay, first off,
Wait, hold on. You don't go to the mailbox armed?
Yeah, you don't take your SKS to the mailbox? What have you?
I mean-
have I been doing something wrong?
They're government agents.
how
You
the
have
fuck
to be
are you
armed.
gonna carry your packages at the same time? I'm like 4'11. I carry like a pistol.
My SKS is as big as Mike.
My kid is pretty small, yes.
Yeah, like half of these guns are my size. Like, just I'm a midget.
My
The
kid,
only
yes.
Oh my god, it's fucking awful.
Mike is so short, it makes the boys look like a man's.
Like the
Oh
man.
god. No, like I gotta think about these things. What if I get a package? How the fuck am I gonna carry that? No, I don't do that.
Do you not have a sling?
What are you people doing in the desert over there?
Having rifles slung on our backs like badass cowboys that we are.
You clearly have never played Fallout, Mike. Jeez.
That's basically it's like
That's why you
everything
guys
is like
having to tell
Fallout,
me
but
that
the,
I look like
but
a character
the
from them.
NCR.
But
took over.
anyways, like I wanted to like hear what you guys were thinking about. Like, why do you guys think that we're so easily drawn in? I mean, like I know that Dan just flat out said why he thinks we're so easily drawn into this stuff. Does anybody else have any other opinions as to why? I mean, I know obviously I'm gonna also have to bring up a mix of like the Prussian schooling and mixed with all this fucking heavy propaganda, and we've had like fear just bombarding us 24/7 for I don't know, it's been over a year, hasn't it? Like when did this fucking intense fear start? I remember people getting really crazy around
9/11.
Kavanaugh's. Well, yeah, 9/11 was pretty bad too. Like I don't know when it started. I'm just
It
like
started
fuck.
before I was born. I know that for sure.
9/11,
Because I
I'm
have
telling
never
you.
lived
But
in a world where I wasn't
Yeah, it
surrounded
has
by
been-
fear.
It has been pretty continuous since 9/11.
First
And
it was
when-
the
like,
brown
when-
people, then it was more brown people, and now it's Republicans.
When,
But the
like,
Republicans are still scared of brown people.
when
Yeah.
9/11 started, like not being like when terrorists weren't so threatening anymore, that's when like the housing crisis happened.
Yeah.
And then like after that, it was like Obamacare. That's the world's gonna end. Everyone's gonna die in the streets. Like, yeah, it's.
well, and
always
then they
something.
went to the global warming shit because we're
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
die in 10 years.
Well, I have a.
Do you remember before that, even though they had these fucking giant scares before that? Like, remember the 2K bug?
Y2K?
Y2K bug. I remember sitting on top of a building going, do you think it's going to explode? That would be fucking awesome.
I hope so.
I had to go to work.
Y'all are
I had to
fucking
go to
boomers.
work and make sure 2K didn't kill the telecom that I was working for.
No, it's
AT&T
telecom. Of course, it will not kill. It's gonna kill in 2038.
That's
I
the
remember-
APOC.
I think
I
that
know.
we've always been in a way run by fear, but if you look at it, like we used to do these movie nights all the time, and one time we did one with the Reefer Madness musical, and I went back and collected a bunch of real propaganda, and I made a playlist out of it, and I sat everybody down and showed it to them before we watched it, and they were like flabbergasted at the fact that this was real and that it actually worked and was basically the baseline of what everything we do now is based off of, right? Or a lot of the things we're trying to break away from and stuff as like anarchos and libertarians and shit like that. And like they've used fear all along, but they've evolved so heavily like that I don't even think people notice it anymore. If like
Well, it's like if you get immune
I've
to it to some
fallen-
degree,
I've
you got to come
fallen
up with
to it.
something.
like when I got scared by the LGBT group and everything like that, that was like when the big Antifa shit was popping up and everybody was freaking out about it. And like they beat the crap out of Andy No and all that shit. Like I got really hung up in it too for a little while until I fucking slowed down and thought about things and looked around and realized what was going on. And I was like, oh shit, dude, you're like just hand to mouthing it. You can't hand to mouth shit. You have to fucking explore these things.
Please don't hand to mouth your shit.
What do you think about this? We'll go around. What do you think about this, Paxton?
What exactly is the question? That was like a 20-minute long question.
No, it wasn't. It was only
It was
like
only 10. Come on.
Summarize your question.
anyways, like I was wondering like what you guys think about like if there are any like underlying causes or anything we can do about it. Even like what you just think about like what's drawn us all into these petty arguments amongst each other.
I don't think there is a way to fix it. I think it's human nature. I think this is exactly what happens, and I think that's why you have to focus on local, small communities. I don't think humans are really designed to be on the national level. I think it's always designed to fail. I mean, historically, that's what's happened. There's no empire that's been here since the start of human history. That's just not how things work. They last for maybe a few hundred years, and then they collapse inevitably. And most of the time, those empires end up fracturing multiple times, and sometimes that's even how they've stayed organized for that many hundreds of years. The Roman Empire was in 4s multiple times, then 3s, 2s, and it kept getting split up. Humans are designed to be in smaller pockets because cultures change. People change over time, and because different regions have different ways of living and different values. The United States is a good example of that. You can see the red and blue divides typically on voting maps. Even within the states themselves, you can see the more urban areas tend to be more Democratic leaning than what the rural areas are going to be. Yeah, I mean, that's why I don't really believe in nationalize anything. At the most, a state level is really the highest I think you can do something efficiently and long term without really having to force mass populace. I think if you control things on a state level, that gives people the ability to move if they don't fucking like something. If you don't like gay people, then you can move to a state where gays aren't allowed. If you're a gay person in a state that doesn't like gays, then you can move outside of that state.
I was gonna clip that. You're dead now.
Good. Fucking do me the favor. Then I don't have to worry about the elections anymore. I don't have to listen to these libertarians saying that maybe we should have some restrictions on guns. I don't want felons. I mean, they're crazy people. Fuck
If
you.
a 15-year-old
Especially
can't buy a
those
machine
drug
gun at
felons.
Walmart, my rights are being infringed.
But yeah, I mean that's what it comes down to. I think humans are naturally scared. I think the larger area that you have, the easier it is to scare those people because they're more likely to tune into national news outlets like CNN and Fox. The whole thing is they realize the power they have, that they're reaching a mass audience. Most people aren't tuning to their local news stations like they used to be, like local newspapers, I mean, and things like that, where they have a more localized opinion on stuff. So if CNN has we'll call it a Californianized democratic ideal, then that's what they're going to be spreading across the entire nation and spreading any pockets that are massively watching CNN into that little propaganda field. That's basically what we're seeing at the moment. We're seeing Fox and CNN take over the nation.
That's a pretty good point. Max, do you want to go at the end so you can lead this into your topic that you want to talk about? I'll skip
Yeah, sure.
you.
Why the hell not?
All right, I3, you
Anyway.
go then. What do you think?
Well, there's two answers I have for this. The short version is that I voted for my first libertarian candidate in 2000 simply because 20 years ago, you all know what happened. Both parties put up piss poor candidates. And so I went to the third party, Libertarian Party, not necessarily because I was a libertarian, but I was looking for an alternative voice. Now, roughly 8 years later, the Libertarian Party put up a candidate I didn't like at all. And I didn't like either Obama or,
Romney?
No, not Romney. McCain at the time. So I went to the Green Party. Ever since 2008, there's been a slow downhill within the libertarian executive leaders, especially when 2016 hit and Nicholas Sarwark came aboard. I think ever since then, there's been a split to have the Libertarian Party become more mainstream and more palatable downstream, down ballots. And the way Nicholas saw it was that we need to get a lot of people who was post-Obama, but didn't like Trump and didn't like Biden. So he was trying to appeal to a lot of left-leaning libertarians. And I was like, no, we don't need to go in that route. We need to stick to liberty. And ever since then, I've noticed a huge division within the real libertarians, small L's, the activists, and the executive leaders of the Libertarian Party, the big L's. And so for the past 3.5 years, there's been a huge push to get the Mises Caucus involved in basically the libertarian wing of the party become the Mises Caucus. And, for me, if we don't get to that point again, we're going to have to basically say the Libertarian Party is no longer what it used to be. We either need to reform it inside or split off and do our own thing. And like Paxton said, and I think Dan and Adam Kokesh mentioned this too at some point during the campaign trail, we need to decentralize, we need to localize, get down to the basic levels of Libertarian Party politics, councils, state senators, state reps, judges, and the like. And I think that's better because there's like hundreds of candidates running right now, and we're not focusing on the down ballot candidates, and we need to. So for me, I would rather focus on state politics. Alabama is not friendly to libertarianism. The state or national party hasn't done anything for Alabama, and the state party is split. And for me, I'm sort of like, if the Libertarian Party wants to go up in flames, I'm not against that. I'm ready to burn it down. But if the Libertarian Party ceases to exist tomorrow, I'm not going to feel sad about that either. So I'm sort of in the vein of, I really want to be anarchist, but I guess what's holding me on to being a minarchist is that I use real time right now some public services that if they were cut, I would not have a way to earn an income immediately. And so I'm trying to find private, public-private ways of replacing my life using public services. And the libertarian answers have not fulfilled me completely yet. But once they do, I'm completely becoming anarchist. Basically not, after this year, I'm probably not going to vote for any candidate, including the Libertarian Party. I'm just, I'm through, I'm done. Until they get better leadership at the executive level, I'll just wait and see what they have at the local level.
So you basically think that libertarianism has been that libertarianism and the liberty movement in general have been too muddied, and that we should just burn it down and make some new shit.
Maybe we should focus on things like governors. Like, what if we got a libertarian governor in a place like Texas or something?
Well,
pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
What do you think about it, Jay? Oh shit!
You're muted.
You're muted.
Oh, there we go.
So, which question should I do first? So we're talking about why are we all afraid?
Why do we all hate
or
each
why
other?
the LP is actually worth your
time? And then lead into what you think we can do about it, or if it's even worth trying.
I think everybody so far has had some really good points, and this is like the first time I haven't wanted to just send Paxton an electric jolt through his keyboard. Because what he said was like really cool. I wanted to add on one of the things that I think you guys are talking about, and especially Paxton, was the kind of the amoebization of all the different media conglomerates into one or two or three, basically huge forces. I think that's only been accelerated by the fact that we've had the internet now for 25-ish years as a popular thing. That one of the things that I always tell people is the internet, it accelerates human knowledge, and it also accelerates human ignorance. So what you end up with is the ability to have an echo chamber that's just hundreds of times more massive than you would ever been able to, build yourself at your local level. So yeah, you end up with these little pockets of dumbassery or whatever you want to call it. I naturally, as far as the LP, I want to remind everybody, the LP is comprised of 50 affiliates, and we are doing local. We are doing state senators. We are doing all this. Oklahoma's a little slower out of the gate, maybe, but we've actually made progress. You want a good example? Look at Pennsylvania. They've got a ton of state and local office holders now, by the dozens. We're talking, they're really moving. Alabama's a problem. Sorry. They do need to pay more attention. I would say I would agree a lot with what you said about Nick. Remember, though, that this was Nick's third term, so he was actually there in 2014.
Yeah. He was.
through 2020, and a lot of people criticized him for, let's react to the we're too Ron Paul, we're not liberty enough, we're too Ron Paul Republican now. So then Nick starts pushing everybody towards, the left libertarian mindset, and I understand why you might do that, but I also agree that's probably a mistake. We need to be reaching out to the politically homeless.
Yeah.
You're going to get a few disaffected Democrats and you're going to get a few disaffected Republicans, but you shouldn't build a strategy on that because they're going to come over on their own. We need to be going for that, 60% of registered voters that didn't bother. And that's the most frustrating thing. We all know that everybody says, "Oh, you're stealing a vote from X," and I'm like, "No, we're actually picking up a vote from the, the Oort cloud over here." So anyway, but and I, as far as the LP National, I'm hopeful now that we have a little bit more professional chair. We'll see.
We'll see.
But if you are complaining, if you are unsatisfied with your committee, you can do something about that. I will just say that. Your state affiliates have a lot to say what goes on in their region. And in your regions, if you're involved, you can actually go elect a regional representative that sits on that committee. We happen to have a couple of awesome ones out of Region 7. We have Aaron and Whitney.
Yeah.
That's Dan, you're in New Mexico, but you're still Texan by association, right? So Whitney's your state chair now, right?
Yep.
She is, I don't know, what's the word? Force of nature in some ways. So,
yeah, we've got
I'm a lot more hopeful now as far as how the LNC turned out than what we had been with. Josh didn't get chair, but he did keep a seat. So I think there's a little more balance. And as far as Mises versus whatever, I'm not a Mises guy. I'm not a LibSoc, clearly. I'm trying to inhabit that space where, I look at the platform and say, yeah, that looks cool. So, no, I'm not an ANCAP or an anarchist. I am a capital M anarchist, I suppose. But I'm willing to put effort into the LP to, actually see some change because it's happening at the local and state level. Like all I can speak for is my state, and we will eventually in the next few years have, an actual state legislator with a partisan label. And if the trend is going that direction, why would we stop?
Right.
Why would we give up? And so you can say voting is aggression at the national level or what have you. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I respect people's opinion that, I don't want to vote for president because I don't want to tell anybody else what to do. I just always am curious, at what point is not voting an admission that the only other method of political change left to you is a cartridge?
Two things.
Maybe
One,
Paxton's okay with that.
I'm definitely okay with that, and I do think that's the only option at this point. I think that's the only way that you're going to get real change across the nation. Two, I think this is actually an excellent example of why we don't need to be throwing money at the executive office. The main reason why the Libertarian should be putting up a candidate for the executive office in the first place is exposure of the Libertarian Party. We're not getting that this year because they've stopped, I think it's been a while now that they've really put us up in the debates.
The debates are only one day.
The debate is big, though. That's getting a lot of views, and that's the main. So many people, I don't want to say everyone, but very, very many people all have the same coming together moment of Ron Paul in the debates. That is what converted so many people, because he was able to get up there and be right and left and show people what the Libertarian Party was about, what being libertarian was all about. We don't get that exposure like we used to because they saw the damage it did. It saw how many people it converted. It saw how much growth the Libertarian Party
Ron Paul was in the Republican primary debates.
Well,
he never stood on the presidential stage as a libertarian and said libertarian.
Right, but he was still conveying those
right and left
ideas.
of the
and
Republicans.
principles.
Yeah, I'm not discounting the Ron Paul effect at all. Clearly he's brought a lot of people over, but we all know the CPD is a bunch of liars and thieves and corrupt as hell, and they're scared.
Of course.
They were saying something on NPR. NPR. My wife listens to NPR just to know what the enemy is doing, and
how can she manage?
Is that the name of the show?
But they were interviewing one of the commissioners for the CPD, and the guy was basically saying, "Well, nobody qualifies," and then they kind of laugh about it. They literally laugh about it. Sorry, I can't make anyone happy. I'm going to get a bunch of emails from libertarians today complaining. Ha ha ha. And I'm like, you literally don't poll and then say we have to make an average of 15% in polls that we're not included in. And I think that hammering that home is starting to make a little bit of headway, believe it or not. There's some independent polls in certain age, demographics and that are showing Joe, I don't know how much credence I would give them, but it's not nothing. So do I think Joe will get more than, 5% nationally? Maybe not. It doesn't seem to be that year. I think the fear factor is, like we were all saying earlier, pretty heavy and thick on the ground right now.
Okay, imagine if we cut the bullshit with the executive office for 1 year and took that funding and threw it all at one state.
Yeah.
They're kind of trying. They're kind of trying something new with that frontier project.
12 years to pick one state, though.
Okay, now hear me out. Alaska's already detached from the rest of us. Let's just go all in on fucking Alaska and just secede.
No, just leave Alaska to the mooses and bears. It's fine. But
I have to be the middle ground person here because, I totally agree with
an invasive species in Alaska.
Saying, I'm to hell with the national crap. I don't even pay attention to it hardly anymore. But there's a lot of people that are I'm not gonna do the national shit, but they don't do anything local. They just stop doing things instead. And at least if you're gonna stop doing national shit, turn your attention local and start doing stuff there, because if there is going to be a real change, it is going to be right there. You can actually do that, especially in places like Arkansas. Here I've seen so many things come out of the mouths of people on the streets and so many heads nodding along with it that I never fucking thought I would ever fucking see. This is a moment to make some fucking change if you want to, but it's not gonna fucking last long.
My whole point is I don't think anyone's disagreeing that the debates is not a huge fucking, it's not working for us. It is there for the Republicans and Democrats. That's all it is. No one is denying that.
Yeah,
the two parties are just using it to rile up their bases. That's all.
If that's the case, and we know we're not going to be involved in that because they're going to keep moving the goalposts. If they won't even fucking throw Tulsi up there, Yang, things like that, then they're definitely not going to throw up our candidate up there.
Oh God, no.
What we need to do is start throwing money at other places. I mean, Joe's there's really nothing negative I can really say about Joe. She's smart, has all the opinions and stuff like that I can, at least relatively get behind. Better than Donald Trump and Biden by a mile. But I just don't see it doing anything.
Going around everywhere, talking to everybody and meeting everybody and stuff like that, though, that actually brought new people to the party here. I don't know about what the hell you guys were doing, and were you just sitting on your butt and it didn't bring anybody in, or what? Because here we got new people out of our JoJo thing. It drew people. It was interesting. I think that's useful.
Well, I think the last time Jay was here, we talked about the Joe rally, didn't we? Where there was a lot of people that were unregistered or not part of the Libertarian Party.
There were a ton of people showed up, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's useful. It is bringing people in. I think that's something that could be great. But I don't.
Paxton has a point. The utility of the national campaigns is narrow until we get, that foundational strength from the state and local areas. But it does act as a national kind of ad campaign to a degree, and it does have some effect on some states' ballot access. And that's really to me, that's really the only reason to run a national campaign either. I mean, I'll be honest.
I understand the ballot access, but I mean, as far as the national access, I think it was a was. I don't think it's the same thing anymore. I think they realized the effectiveness of it. I think they realized that they were giving us free airtime, essentially. Well, free airtime, essentially, and I think they're stopping it, and I think we need to start adapting to it. Now, all this being said, I don't want to keep stomping on the LP, because the whole reason Mike and I got involved with this shit in the first place was because we fucking hated Nick Sarwark, and he's out now. We're glad. Like, thank whomever is out there that allowed that to happen.
I invited him to come onto the show and talk to us.
He's gonna
about
watch
our differences.
this, and he's just gonna be like,
He already
yeah,
knows.
Mike,
I told him we talk shit about him all the time, and said that he should get a chance to talk
We
shit.
should get Mosh Ture and Nick Sarwark on the same
Oh
show.
my, no.
Yes. No.
Maj,
Yeah.
hey, Maj Ture came into the Mises Caucus bash
Mhm.
in Orlando, and Nick was there, and they didn't even talk.
Yeah.
Wow.
They were like 8 feet apart, facing opposite directions.
You should have taken a picture of that.
So what I was getting at is, let's see what the leadership does with the LP and see what they decide to do. Let's especially after the election cycle. That's really whenever we'll see what the new LP leadership is going to be doing.
Yeah.
Because right now this is what they have to focus on, because this is what the LP is pushing them to do. The general LP is pushing them to do.
Yeah, exactly. What does the LP do in the interim on down ballot races? In the past few times after the election of 2012, 2016, and maybe 2008, I didn't really get into a state libertarian. Now, I did for a little bit between 08 and 010 in Alabama. That was a good time, but because the leadership during that time was very good. But after our state president resigned because there was some disagreement where the Alabama Libertarian Party was going, the leadership tends to just say, "Hey, let's see what we can do nationally." And I'm like, I'm not wanting to do that now. And most of them are on Facebook. I am not on Facebook. I am not on Twitter. And I think the Libertarian Party is missing out when they're not on alt text sites or using Discord or Telegram. And I think that you should use these alternative sites where they can actually bridge out and reach out to disaffected libertarians instead of disaffected liberals or disaffected Republicans. I'm a disaffected libertarian. I would love for my state party to reach out to me because I was once a volunteer for campaigns. But I don't know. It seems like Alabama's Republican or not Republican. That's basically where we're at right now in this state.
Well, before we get too far off the subject and everything like that, is this too American for you to comment on, Deco? Do you have an opinion on how autistic we are, or
You just heard a bunch of eagle screeches.
Yeah.
Oh, damn it. You're so fucking
it's
autistic.
like y'all
I
just
don't
sound like
know.
a bunch of screaming eagles and gunfire, beer cans opening?
He's
Look,
just
I don't
sitting
know.
out there all smug and
I don't know.
superior because they have a confederation.
Eurofag.
Look, I don't know. You will do better when the national anthem will not be the Star Spangled Banner, but instead it will be When Money Comes Marching Home.
Eventually, we'll get the point, right?
I mean, you don't know that video.
Will ever be Ancapistan. I just don't think it. I think that if Ancapistan will ever exist, it'll have to be built somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, you have to
National
go
anthem
somewhere.
Like
should be
Alaska,
fucking West Virginia,
I'm
though.
telling you, people.
Alaska. I mean, it's cold there. Do you mean it's Igloo Land?
Listen, I'm a desert rat. I need to get the hell out of this cold. Bring me to Alaska.
What do you think, Dan? Do you have anything to add on to any of that stuff from
Man,
the beginning, or when we went off track like crazy?
I feel like I don't want to talk shit about the Libertarian Party, but I kind of do.
You go ahead.
Actually, Dan, I think you have the premier expert. You need to, because I actually was donating and basically promoting your campaign before I learned about Joe. So Mike bringing in to have me learn more about you. So I think you have all the dibs on sitting on the Libertarian Party.
All right. Well, I mean, so there's a couple things. I mean, like one, we talked earlier about everyone putting all their faith into the the president of the United States or the Supreme Court as to how that decision goes. And it's like the Libertarian Party is not, you know, like some people say, like, oh yeah, we need the best presidential candidate, and it's like that doesn't really make any difference. The party itself doesn't really help any candidates. The National Libertarian Party has a, you know, they don't have a shit ton of money, but they've gone through a pretty good chunk of change doing stuff that hasn't really helped any specific campaign. Same with the state parties. They don't typically even really endorse candidates or support them or give them money or resources or anything else. A lot of people who are in the Libertarian Party usually end up as volunteers on those campaigns, but that's kind of in their own capacity. It's not like they're taking money from the state or national campaign and going to these campaigns. And I think, you know, it's kind of this, there's all kinds of problems that can come in with this. One is you have, let's say Ron Paul, right? Ron Paul reached a lot of really great people, and this is probably a good thing that this didn't happen. People fell in love with Ron Paul. They didn't fall in love with the Republican Party, which is probably like the best thing that came out of that, out of this point. When Gary Johnson ran, he wasn't as big as Ron Paul. He didn't reach as many people, but he reached a lot of new people, and they fell in love with Gary Johnson, but they weren't the libertarians. They weren't falling in love with the Libertarian Party. Now, there's this concept in advertising or marketing of brand recognition. And when the Libertarian Party is out pushing candidates, they're pushing candidates, and then the candidates disappear the next year. Not me. I'm not going anywhere. But you don't see any big advertising campaigns saying libertarian, libertarian, libertarian. And if you do, they're not really great campaigns in the terms of, one, they don't really establish what they are or why people should identify with and subscribe to this brand and support this brand. They're not repetitious to the point where in any branding and marketing, I mean, shit, look how many people have Nikes. It's not because Nike just came along and said, oh, we have a new shoe, here, buy it. It's because they've been around for decades, spending millions, probably billions of dollars, making sure that their shoes are on every football player. Their Nike swooshes on all the football players, like all this stuff. That's all branding and advertising and marketing. And you look at Trump. Who the hell was Trump when he came along? He was already a celebrity from his reality shows. He was all this and that. But he was also running with the Republican Party, which is an established brand. The Republican Party has been around for 5,000 years. Same with the Democrats. All those, I mean, you know, Joe Biden's been around for 5,000 years himself, right? All of these guys they're riding on the coattails of this brand that's been established, right? That's why you get a lot of people who are like, oh, I don't care who's running as a Republican. I'm going to vote for a Republican or a Democrat, because they're already on this brand. And why are they on that brand? Because there's something like 600,000 elected positions in the entire country. Out of those 600,000, everybody's got 20 or 30 candidates on their ballot. And you've got Democrats and Republicans who that's where most of the money comes from, and they've been advertising to all these people. They've built those brands over a very long time, and the Libertarian Party does not understand branding and marketing in that way. And so we get new people, and then they disappear. Because as much as we talk about the Libertarian Party, we have a solid platform, right? We're about something. Unlike the Democrat, Mike, I think you said about the Democrats and Republicans. Does anybody know what their platforms are? No, but they know the names, right? Does anybody know where Nike shoes are made? No, but you know the name. You know the celebrities that are wearing the shoes. You know all this shit about them. But the stuff that really matters, are these ethically made shoes? Nobody cares. Nobody knows. And so the Libertarian Party is basically trying to run out here and say we have ethically sourced shoes to sell. And everyone's like, well, we don't care because no celebrities are wearing your shoes. Nobody cares about you. So why should we? And we have to get over that. We have to as much as libertarians are we're very logical. We understand everything. Everything is a rational point. That's all great. That's all wonderful. We have ethics and morals and principles. But at the same time, that doesn't get across to people. And the only way anything is ever going to change is if not the 10 or 20% of the people who aren't voting, not a handful of the disenfranchised voters. If a mass awakening of hundreds of millions of people in this country wake up and say, hey, you know what, this two-party system really sucks. There's this other party. There's not even the party. There's this concept of liberty that makes so much more sense. We need to subscribe to this concept of liberty. And I want to say this because there is a massive liberty movement in the United States, in the whole world. And it's got nothing to do with the Libertarian Party. The Libertarian Party is the bureaucratic arm of the liberty movement. Because all they do is they get ballot access and they help facilitate some things, right? So if somebody says, hey, I'm part of this liberty movement and I want to stand for something, the Libertarian Party is there. It says, hey, we got your back. We have ballot access for you. So, I mean, it's a good thing. But at the same time, they also spend a lot of time arguing over rules and a bunch of bullshit, which doesn't help move the ball down the field, right? So there's a lot of things that have to change. But in the same way, just like I think where I started this answer off, we don't look to the president or SCOTUS as like, oh, this has to be perfect because that's the end game. We don't look to the Libertarian Party in the same way. We have to understand that the Libertarian Party, like, we should stop investing time and money in them having conventions where they can argue over rules, invest time and money in them to keep and maintain ballot access, and then invest the rest of our time and energy in spreading awareness about the principles and candidates who are going to do that in a way that we can synergistically broadcast this message that's going to change the way that people think in the entire country. Because if we can't change that, you're going to get people who are like Joe Jorgensen groupies, and then they're going to disappear next year, and you gotta re-earn them again, and you're starting from scratch.
Yeah.
And you're wasting time and money when you could start from that same point and say, hey, we're the same people. We're just going to keep moving forward with somebody else.
And we didn't even start pushing Joe Jorgensen until after the second Libertarian Convention. I don't know if it was physical or virtual. But after that, I became a volunteer on the Discord server. We had less than 1,000 people. And yet 2 months later, like last month, the official campaign actually recognized our Discord server, and Joe Jorgensen tweeted it out. And now they're like, oh, well, we need to get the ground troops running. And I'm like, you should have done this months ago, you know? But hey, whatever. If you want to do this again in 3.5 years, you're welcome to, just without me. Because what basically you're doing is trying to cram 4 years or 3+ years of campaigning into 3 to 4 months.
Right.
No campaign can survive that and get 5%. I don't know. I know Gary Johnson nearly campaigned for 1.5 years before he actually, the vote was cast in November 2016. I think 1.5 years, or maybe a little bit less. And he didn't even get 5%, got 3.8. And so, you know, we need to stop this, electing a candidate after the campaign or after the convention. You need to have a convention way earlier, like in 2019. Mm-hmm. All this COVID crap really interfered with all the campaign conventions, really. But
there's a huge group of people inside the LP that wants the nominations to be the year prior.
That
we want our convention.
Well, here's the other thing too. If you look at the Democratic Party, it is not just by coincidence that they start out with like 20 candidates, and then they're down to 18, 16, and then they run their debates for like 1.5 years. That is like Survivor, right? That is like The Bachelorette. This is what they're making a show out of it, and they're broadcasting it. They could be paying CNN and Fox like millions of dollars to make sure they broadcast this. Who knows? the Libertarian Party is completely disorganized in that way. Each state says we're going to have a bunch of conventions. We're going to have them at different times. We're going to invite different candidates. If you wanted to make this interesting, you would make a show out of it. Who's going to get voted off of the Libertarian candidate stage this time? Like, that's what draws people in. And it doesn't, I mean, people are going to say, oh, that's not fair and all this other shit. And it's like, okay, do you really care that it's fair, or do you really care that we're making a huge difference and getting a lot of people to hear what these people are saying? Because I mean, you could be fair and nobody hears it, and then who cares?
Well,
I'm thinking we need to get some motion to getting Dan Taxation to Steph Behrman hired on as a marketing consultant.
Well,
Damn
to me,
straight.
I can't
yeah.
like enough what he's been saying the past 10 minutes.
Well, I would really
Because I know what it's like.
Exactly. And I think that we really do need to do something like that.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I'm totally alien to the LP. Like, I think you all know that I'm very new to this. I was a tanky 8 months ago. But recently I've been coming around. I still haven't even gotten involved in my local LP, and I've been meaning to do that until COVID fucked everything up. So I do like all of these ideas. I'm hearing this from a sort of an outsider-ish perspective. I've had a lot of exposure to the anarchist sphere, but not as much the libertarian. And I think that that's the way to go. I've been able to convince people to move over towards more libertarian mindsets, but it doesn't take, oh, well, this is our candidate, give them 3 months campaign. It takes more than 3 months for me to convince a certain person that I'm talking to on a daily basis to actually get them to come around. So we really do need more exposure.
Yeah.
And then back to the original question, in Times somehow, in his abbreviated version, about the division. I feel like it's inevitable that we're going to have a divided Libertarian Party just by the nature of it. By the nature of the Libertarian Party, the vast majority of the people there are very much like free thinkers. We don't like authority all that much. That's sort of the shtick. And I feel like us arguing about petty shit is going to be an inevitability. I think that we need to use that to our advantage, and we need to make libertarian debates. We need to make a spectacle out of it, because the difference between the libertarian debates, the Democratic debates, and the Republican ones, is that libertarians know how to fucking argue with each other. We do it constantly on Twitter. We're good at arguing. And if we could make a real spectacle out of these debates and we could actually change some minds, that would do 1,000,000 times more than a 5-month campaign right before the election could ever hope to achieve.
Well, you're wrong and I'm right.
No, you.
God damn.
Yes,
Okay.
show your sources.
You're so
Look, I don't have cards for
Stance.
this Paxton.
Citation needed, Maxwell.
Shit.
Well, I think it's late for me. I think I should hang up and go to the bed.
All right,
know.
take care, Deco. It was nice to have you in. I know it's gonna be a treat. It's not gonna be an every time.
He's like all these boring Americans.
I know we're getting into the super American
Freedom is just
shit.
exhausting, isn't it?
Yo, I mean, shit, breathing with that fucking piece of cloth. Holy shit. That's some
It's
next
really
level thing.
humid
Imagine
here,
having
which
an
is why I
executive
ripped
office
mine
made up of
off.
a
I
single
can't do it.
person.
Look, I don't know. I wanted to tell a story which is funny, but I think I'm gonna leave it for the next time or send you the link for the lols.
All right.
Yeah,
Take care, dude. Be safe.
bye.
Have a good one,
Later.
Deco.
We were gonna kind of like bring this over into like armchair libertarians and anarchists and shit, but I think we've all pretty much like
Yes.
talked about what we think the libertarians could be doing right now. I mean, honestly, I agree with Paxton about the fact that the national is useless, but like I said, we can really be doing some stuff down here on the ground. And like I really like how Arkansas is starting to direct itself and shit, you know. I'm feeling really akin to the more local people. And that's really where we're gonna fucking do it. We can't be these kinds of people that are sitting here just talking about it and not going out and getting involved in it, because I see far too often those armchair libertarians sitting there telling everybody what should be done, but there's nobody out there doing it, and therefore people don't believe it. It leads kind of from that exposure thing. Like, we can't just be focusing on like campaigning for people either. We need to actually focus on like finding ways to show them that this stuff is viable in our lives.
Yes.
And
Teach 'em
these
how to
armchair
fish.
activists
I mean, that's the stuff
aren't
that's going to
just
stick with them forever.
Oh God, one at a time, y'all. I couldn't understand that.
Sorry.
You first, Dan. Age before beauty. I'm just kidding. He's not very attractive.
I'm
No,
extremely attractive.
you know what I said.
He looks like a white rapper.
It's the libertarian thing to like yell over each other.
Yeah, it is.
It is. It is.
No,
I'm like,
it isn't.
Stop
Yeah, don't
arguing
agree with me.
everything. Oh my God. Oh my God. Let me.
Yeah,
I
I think
have,
we need to get like people need to learn the philosophy and the ideology in practical ways, and everyone's going to learn it. Like, everybody learns different ways differently. But that's ultimately the thing. That's what we need to be fighting for, because if at the end of the day people are like, oh yeah, this guy, yeah, let's support Ron Paul, and then like Ron Paul comes around and says, yeah, you know what, I rethought my ways and I don't like guns anymore, so we're going to ban them all. And it's like, okay, are we Ron Paul supporters, or are we liberty, free thinking, anarchists, freedom supporters? Like, what are we really? And I think that's like, forget about, I mean, it's wonderful if we can get people elected. Don't get me wrong, but that's only going to get you so far. And especially when the people who like are going to the voting booth are the people who are like, well, I don't care, this guy sounds good, he's going to give me some free stuff. Like, they don't understand that the reason they're working 40 to 60 hours a week is because the government's taking everything from them. Like, hey, I'm going to give you some of your freedom back. I'm going to give you some of your time and peace of mind. Rephrase it like that. But if people don't understand what freedom is, like, they're never going to vote for it. So I think that's like where we have to win. Like, otherwise someone else will get people to vote libertarian, and then someone else will be like, yeah, but I'm giving you free health care. And they're going to be like, oh, well, that sounds better than what Ron Paul was giving me. So, okay.
So when I initially had the idea for this topic, I got in a very heated argument with a person, and they were claiming some ridiculous thing. They said it was basically to the effect of, my opinion on minority rights doesn't count because I'm not a minority. And I retort with, I didn't see you downtown protesting shit, but I think that that's a big issue in this country. We have too many armchair activists. These people who post these things on social media, who say, yeah, BLM, let's go, ACAB, all this bullshit. And they just say the things, they use the hashtags, but they aren't on the ground. They're not meeting people and changing minds and shaking hands and screaming at cops. So we really have to work on. And honestly, I think you're
like, we need more people yelling at cops.
We need more people yelling at cops. Soundbite that shit. But I think the Libertarian Party is the best when it comes to this. A lot of libertarians, even though it's not ideal, we want everybody to be out on the streets fighting for liberty. We have a lot of the libertarians who are more politically active. I feel like the biggest one are the wannabe woke people of the Democratic Party who don't protest, they don't do anything, they just use the hashtags. And I put a black square on my Instagram that one Tuesday, so I'm a good person now. And I feel like, how do you guys think that we're going to overcome this as a country, and we're going to get to real change and not this armchair activism?
Well, I was just going to throw out there, I put a link in our internal chat for everybody, but if you guys go to Todd Hagopian's Twitter feed, I think it's an example of something Dan was just talking about, which is, a slogan that people can bite on, can chew on. Todd has come out for one of the most boring jobs in the universe, corporation commissioner, but one of those boring jobs that affects every single person doing business in your state, probably. And he's come out, basically his catchphrase, putting Oklahoma back to work. I mean, that's totally a traditional political phrase, but he actually means it. And he's, basically saying, I'm going to get rid of this stupid regulation wherever I can and put us back to work. I don't know if you're familiar with our state. We have some of the most insane like alcohol laws, and I'm sure it's pretty common throughout the South. But he's trying to get rid of some of that. And it's just a simple message that I hope people, hope resonates with people.
Well, we need more people on the ground that are part of the party to run for local things and try to help dismantle things. No, we're not gonna fucking fix things with our votes, but we could strategically participate in praxis by putting the right people in the right places. And I believe that Todd is an excellent example of that situation because he's literally going in there to say no to everything. And like I've heard of judges that are like, or they ran on the platform of I'm not, if it's not a violent, if it's a victimless crime, I'm just gonna say no every time and shit like that. And then there's like the new anarchist sheriff chick that's running on these like platforms of like
Fuck the
like
police.
we're not gonna do anything unconstitutional for anything, no nonviolent crimes or no victimless crimes, and we're not gonna enforce drug or sex laws or anything like that. And I'm just like, I want to move to this place now. But like, crap, I lost track of what I was fucking trying to say here.
You were saying something about Israel doesn't belong as a state.
Oh my God, that's not what I was saying. I was saying that, like, we do need more people if you want to actually try to use what is left of the shreds of, like, false democracy that we have going in this fucking nation today to try and create a little bit of fucking chaos and help tear it apart before it's too fucking late. That down here in the dredges where it actually fucking affects people would be the best place to do it. I just don't think that we are going to be able to really effectively change things on a national level at all until we start pulling down the pillars that hold it up.
So can we rename this podcast to Fuck, I Lost My Train of Thought?
Fuck you.
I like that, yeah.
Fuck, what was I talking about?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be Anarchy Treehouse.
Anarchy Treehouse. Look, I get to talking to people and they're like, well, that's not very libertarian of you. And I'm like, I'm not, I'm in the Libertarian Party, but you're
on the spectrum.
Don't take my views as like the average libertarian thought process because you're going to be real confused when you meet them.
Just tell them that you're trying to radicalize the party. It's fine.
Don't worry. We're just trying to radicalize everything. Accelerate. No, I'm not even an accelerationist. I'm not. I don't think that we have much time to take advantage of using the system to fix it because it's running out right now as we speak. Like little.
I mean, the system is the problem. Like the system needs to go away. So of course you can't fix it from within the system, but it provides opportunities of everything else that needs to be done. That's how I look at it.
I mean,
the system only survives off of the belief of the people that are out there, though, right?
Right, but like so I'm running for offices for the system, but I'm using these races to tell people not to put all their faith into these systems because this is all the damage that these systems are going to do, and it's inevitable that they're going to do them. So to stop giving so much power to these systems. So it's like, because ultimately, it's like the people have to say, okay, we're done with these systems. We don't need them. Like nobody's gonna if you're gonna walk in there and say, oh, we're gonna shut down the government. No one's gonna vote for that because they're of the belief that no, I want to participate in this voting system so I can have more of this system. So you have to. It seems counterintuitive, but I think you have to use the position of running to show people that they need less of that, and that's where they get what they want. Like
Yeah,
the whole what's in it for me.
They go in and they basically dismantle the system by showing them that they don't fucking need the system. I'm totally behind people doing that. I'm not ever gonna like say that that's immoral. I mean, it's a little tricksy because we're kind of shoehorning in and taking things apart. But at this point, sometimes like I feel like we're fighting people all the time on every fucking side just to like, I don't know, get anything done these days. And I don't think that we have much of a chance of changing it on a large scale where the money is really fucking needed in order to push to. And I feel like if we got people in down low, that's where people are going to see it every day. Like everybody watches this national news though and don't watch as much of the local news. So that's become a problem. I think that people are becoming actually disconnected from their local areas. So like if we don't take advantage of it now, we'll probably lose the capacity to do that in the next like 5 to 10 years, because we're literally losing our locality at this point. Like people don't look to the local anymore. They don't know what's happening in their own towns and
What
cities.
they're doing is following Silicon Valley's thing where they think local but act globally. You know, they have this warm idea. They want to change the world. And the way they change the world is make sure they ignore the local or locality they're in, especially in like San Mateo or Cupertino or, you know, San Francisco, where all the tech giants are, or in Washington, D.C. They want to focus on the national level, but the actual politicians within District of Columbia don't really focus on the actual district itself. So the politicians and big tech leaders are like this attitude that's affecting our country.
Oh.
Hello? Oh, well,
Hello?
but yeah, it's just basically we're missing the point of if you want to start change, you need to think globally, but act locally. Like act local. You want to change the world, change it around you first before you go out and change.
You need to get out in the streets here, wherever the fuck here is, and make liberty sexy. Make liberty sexy again.
Bring sexy back.
Bring.
That's definitely what you're doing to the return whatever.
So you're going to update the classic quote from Judge Learned Hand to something like "Liberty lies in the libidos of men and women."
Oh my god!
I didn't know.
When it dies there, never mind. I can't.
Yeah, let's bring back the free love movement.
I'm okay with like putting flowers in cops' guns and shit. Let's do it.
Peace, love, and liberty.
Put a flower in a cop's rifle while carrying your own rifle.
Yeah, make sure that you're not accidentally loading the flower ammo into your own firearms, because you might need
and stop running around at low ready.
The new tactical.
I don't know if it would work the same way anymore, because like wasn't there that chick during the protest that tried to like give some cops some flowers, and like moments later they just beat the shit out of her?
That sounds about right.
That was like one time.
Just one time.
Yeah, most of the time when they beat the shit out of people, it's for no reason at all.
There's a prostitute who was offering her services if the police would stand down.
Yeah, I remember that.
I am okay. Like I'm always surrounded by like all these traditional people who are like, oh, these freaking left-leaning people are insane, right? But like this one chick up north, she freaking took off all her clothes and did yoga in the street, and the cops left. I'm like, you know what?
Is it that bad?
That's fucking heroic.
They were like,
No,
I'm not
like,
kissing a
it's
sexual
fine.
harassment
He
charge.
didn't have a bad body either. Like I saw the pictures. It was great. I would have stayed and watched. I don't know why they left. The fear of the vagina.
They could see her chakras.
They were afraid her chakras were going to take down the patriarchy.
They were afraid to get sued for sexual harassment if they tried to drag her away, is what it was.
Well, that's true. You know, you have the 52 movement still going on. It's not as prevalent right now, but once the nominee is hit, you'll see Kavanaugh 2.0,
You just said prevalent, and that
Well,
underscored your entire point.
We need more libertarians going out in the street and doing naked yoga, is what I'm saying, y'all.
I think
Okay.
prevalent is more accurate than prevalent.
Mike,
And Kieran.
Yes, Paxton.
can we go on
Sounds
to
like
the
a
next
chemical
topic of
bond.
David Ware?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, speaking of cops
yeah.
just randomly beating the shit out of people.
It was one time.
But he was a criminal, so
Every
he deserved
damn
to get shot.
day.
Okay,
Oh my
before
God.
we start, I think everybody knows where all the anarchists start. So Jay, our token libertarian friend, tell it. I mean, are you aware of the David Ware stuff,
You
or
want
have
to
you heard of it?
give it?
We're talking about the dude who was a felon, got pulled over. They tried to toss his car on dubious reasons, and then he ended up shooting 2 cops.
Yes.
Yeah.
That guy. I mean, Mrs. Armed Bear Caucus and I were talking about this in the car the other day, and I'm like, because she was asking me about it. There's just no good outcome here at all, right? Because on the one hand, it's totally not okay for him to have killed somebody over that. But on the other hand, that was not a good stop, right? It was illegal and contrived. And you have to ask yourself, if he wasn't a felon already, would that have been, how would that have changed how that went down? And I mean, I don't know. I watched the video. First of all, I don't know if the dude like coated himself in olive oil before he ended up driving, because they could not pull him out of the car. It was just like,
He was coated in pepper spray, is what it was.
it's like, well, maybe. But, spraying and doing all this stuff. I think other people may have already talked about how the state of Oklahoma does not permit a tow unless the tag is 90 days or greater out of date.
Yeah,
His tag
they
was
said
not
60
90 days or
days.
greater. So they threatened him with a tow, which was not legal. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say it was justified self-defense.
They were trying to drag him out
I mean,
of
at what
his
point-
property
Well,
using violent
I don't know.
means.
Across
If
the
somebody
nation,
breaks into your
all we
house-
see is cops fucking killing people.
Sure.
So at which point are we supposed to actually not be afraid of them at this point? Like, we've seen them kill civilians on their
That's
knees,
their whole argument.
begging
Their
them
whole
not
argument
to
is
kill us.
anybody
they
we
still
stop
do it.
could kill us. Anybody we stop could be a
Mm-hmm.
a trained killer ready to kill the officer that stopped them. And so, therefore, that justifies us to be completely trigger happy with like the slightest twitch.
But in this case,
You said
they hit him with
something-
pepper spray, and he did shoot them, and he was the bad guy that didn't let them go home that night. So that kind of is why this is weird.
But would it
Right,
have been
so-
better if they were the bad guys who didn't let him go home at night?
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't
This is just
have
There is
perfect
no-
information, and
Yeah.
I'm not an apologist for the Tulsa Police Department, clearly.
No, they.
But
kinda did some
there's, I always hesitate to say, well, they had it coming.
There's
Or
a doctrine.
They had,
You said something the other day when we were chatting in Twitter, and about how like you thought they were trying to get an excuse to search his car, right?
they clearly were just.
Well, like,
I mean, that's the
yeah,
cop
like-
thing, right?
I was rewatching the video and I noticed something after you had said that, and it was like right here. Hold on, I saved
Get
the
out of the car.
I do have a license and I do have insurance.
David, step out of the
I
car.
do have it. Let me look for it then.
David, get out of the car and I will find it.
Yeah, I will
like
find it.
he actually literally said he was going to there, and I don't know how I missed that, but I might not have even noticed it if you hadn't brought it up and everything. These guys already had intent to do it before anything. Like, that was early on. That was before he was pointing the taser at him and everything like that.
I have a whole bunch of points. One, can we just appreciate that this guy had been pepper sprayed multiple times and he got multiple
Tased
shots off on
too.
his targets and tased?
Yeah.
I mean, we need to start practicing that at the range. We need to start pepper spraying ourselves, tasing each other, and then trying to see if we can stay on target. Point two.
Well, I mean,
Can I cancel range day with Paxton? Because now I'm scared.
Point two is the whole deal with this, and I brought this up to you in our own private call, is all this fucking was a superior officer was trying to swing his dick around to show this person that had been an officer for 6 weeks on this is how we bully people. That's exactly what this situation was. They even say in the video that you shouldn't have pulled out in front of me. That is what this was, is they were angry that this guy pulled out in front of him, and that's why they ended up pulling him over. The tag was the secondary reason. That was their excuse to execute from there. But them pulling out in front of them was the main reason why they engaged with this. From there, it all escalated. That's all police do, is they escalate things. And that brings me to my third point, that the police are escalating every situation. And I have to come to the conclusion that when a police officer comes to me, I can't assume that they're the 1 out of 100 police officers that's a decent human being, because that's not how they're trained to be. They're trained to escalate the situation, and we're seeing that actively here. So I have to assume that if they want me out of the vehicle, I'm in an unsafe area. And I can't let that happen. Yeah. Because just like Maj Toure has said, just like we've said publicly, we are going home. And if that means exiting a place where I feel unsafe, I'm not going to let that happen. And if that means they get a walk home or I get a walk home, sorry about you.
I want to point out a couple things. Like, one is, okay, there's like a doctrine about, like, let's say you walk into a bank, right, with an empty gun, right? You're going to rob the bank. The gun's empty. But there's a security guard and he's got a loaded gun. He pulls his gun out. He tries to shoot at you. He misses and he hits one of the innocent bystanders, right? Mm-hmm. The cops come. The bank robber gets arrested, goes to jail. He can be charged with the death of the person because he created that situation, even though he didn't intend to kill anybody. Even though he started a lesser crime. And that's exactly what the police are doing here. They are attempting to rob this guy. They're attempting to steal his car. They don't even by the government's laws, they didn't have the right to stop him and search his car or tow his car. What they are doing is illegal, and they escalated that. So to Paxton's point about escalation, who did the first thing that was illegal? And the series of events that followed after that resulted in somebody's death. It's the person who started the criminal act that is responsible for everything that follows after that. This guy was not driving down the road with the intent, hey, I'm going to get pulled over by some cops so I can kill him. That wasn't his intent. But the cops sure as hell were on the road. I'm going to pull this guy over and I'm going to extort him for some money.
They say it verbally. It is in the video.
Yeah, like the two of you guys hit on a really good point, and I actually have a clip that goes along with that. Actually, because like he clearly was like, "Well, just give me my ticket and let me leave." And I think that they actually mention the part about because he apologizes for pulling out in front of the other cop, and stuff like that in it.
Do you have anything in the vehicle? Because you've got a history of narcotics.
I know, and y'all always fuck with me just because I have a history. Can I get my ticket and fucking go, man?
Well, all right.
Dude, I know my fucking rights, dude. Can I just get my ticket and go, dude? I pulled in front of him. I'm sorry.
Hey, David.
I'm just trying to go to my house, man.
Like, I don't think he didn't look like somebody who was trying to kill a cop there at all, really. Honestly, right before they tried to pull him out of the vehicle, he was like basically crying and being like, "Why are you doing this?" and screaming, "Help, my rights are being infringed," and shit. And he's just letting them spray him and manhandle him and tase him over and over again while he screams for help. He didn't even get physical until they literally physically pulled him out of the car. I don't know about you, but I've watched this over and over again. Does it look like he takes that cop's gun? Because it looks like he's using that cop's gun. I don't even see where he pulled his own out.
Listen to this, though. They said you have a history. They knew he had a history, probably from running his plates. That's why they wanted to search. That's why they wanted to tow his car. Because here's the thing with towing your car, right? If it's not in a parking lot, oh, it's blocking the road, we have to tow it. I don't want to tow it, but we have to tow it. Oh, well, if we're going to tow it, we don't want to be accused of stealing anything from your car. Therefore, we have to do an inventory, which means we have to inventory the car, not search the car, but inventory the car. Oh, here's some drugs. Well, we can't just pretend we didn't see that.
And that becomes civil asset forfeiture.
What do they call that? In plain sight, right?
Kind of, even though they're searching the car. Hey, I got to run. My guest just showed up for my show.
Cool.
Thanks for coming
But it's
by,
been awesome
Dan.
hanging
We
out
love
with you
having
guys.
you. I'm gonna pop
Yeah.
up and watch your show later on when
Nice
I'm trying to
talking to you,
chill.
All right.
Take care, dude. Who are you having on?
I'm having this woman from Australia who was arrested for protesting.
Oh
Ooh,
yeah, I think I heard
interesting.
about her.
Well,
It's-
y'all,
yeah, it's-
when this is over, go tune into that shit.
All right.
I don't know.
YouTube/taxation is theft.
I'll see you over there, Dan. Have a good
All
one.
right.
Later,
You
be
guys-
safe.
But yeah, I
too.
actually want to build on what Mike was saying about according to the court case, they say that he drew a weapon from underneath his chair.
I didn't see
personally
that.
don't see that at all in the video. It looks to me like he grabs the police officer's belt, which I think he took the police officer's firearm and shot from there.
I don't believe that happened, and
Well,
Paxton,
each cop
have you ever
had both
tried
of
to
his
grab a gun
hands.
from a cop?
The problem
That's
is,
what I'm
like,
saying.
It's
each cop
very
had
difficult.
one cop had his hand and the other cop had his hand, and you could see them at various times. And he didn't have anything on him. So when did he pull it out of the car if he was already out of the fucking car and we could see his hands? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
believe that
Where'd it
a
come from?
person would be able to grab a cop's gun like that. I
Unless
have
covered in
experience,
pepper spray.
not illegal experience, but I have experience trying to unholster a firearm from a police officer's holster, the stuff that they issue, and it is really fucking difficult if you don't know the procedure and you're not going at it from the right angle. So I really highly doubt that he grabbed a cop's gun.
So he
I
just
don't know,
magically
like-
levitated the gun into his hand from underneath his car seat while two police officers were holding
I
him.
think I heard that it was in the door of the car.
I can't remember if this clip shows us enough, but I'm gonna
You got him. What the? What?
like they didn't seem to even notice he was armed until they already had him out of the car by both
I just
arms.
don't fucking
Like,
see it.
where did he get that gun from?
The police
Like, where
officer
did it
didn't
come
notice
from?
the firearm on him the entire time when he has two hands on the dude's fucking arm?
And the other one had his arm and his neck. So, like, where did he? You do at one point when you watch it slow, he's reaching towards one of those cops' belts.
Exactly.
And then the
I'm
guns
telling
go
you.
off. And the gun and the cop is like, "What the fuck?" You see him go, "What the?" And you know, like, so I feel like they're shocked that he has it. Like, where did it come from? There's no way that he came out of that fucking car holding
only
a
other thing
gun
I can
from
figure-
holding his arms, and they didn't notice it.
The only other thing I can figure is he has like a
Maybe he
killer,
wanted-
literally a killer concealed carry somewhere.
Yeah, like maybe it was hidden on his. I don't know where. Maybe on his torso, he could just barely reach it.
I don't know, but all I do know is that it's
All I know
extremely
is
difficult to grab a gun out of a holster like that.
It's
from
hard
that
to pull a gun out of your holster while you're struggling with people, no matter what, whether it's theirs or yours. Like when people are shaking you around and stuff like that, it's harder.
Yeah. Now, here's the question, though, about is this a justified shoot or not? And I think that I should apply my doctrine to this, because I believe that police officers, in being people, should be held to the exact same standard as everybody else. So, do you guys think that it would have been a justified shoot if these two people weren't cops? If they were just random people who were doing this to this guy, would it have been justified for him to shoot them? Of course it would have. If two random dudes off the street pepper spray you twice, tase you, and try to drag you out of your car, you fucking shoot them. So I'm not going to say that it was a good thing that a cop died. I don't believe that it's ever a good, desirable outcome for a person to die. But I am going to say that this looks like, not necessarily from a legal standpoint, because I'm not a lawyer, but from a moral, ethical standpoint, I think that this was a justified self-defense incident.
What do you think, Paxton? We'll go around the table. Good or bad? What do you think? Justified self-defense or murder?
Oh, I mean, definitely not murder. I mean, if he was in a police station, it'd be like
Oh,
if he was doing this like at a police car and trying to drag them out and shooting the shit out of them, you know, kind of like they were doing to him, then it would be a different story. But no, this was his car. They were pulling him over for bullshit reasons. They were trying to fucking get his vehicle taken away. They should have just given him a ticket and let him go on his way, and instead they decided to escalate, and it cost them their lives. And I think that should be the gamble that they play. They want to have the glory of being like military personnel without any of the risk. They say, oh man, it's scary doing our job. Because you escalate things. If you're putting people into life and death situations, which is what you're doing when you're saying that you're going to take their vehicle, which is worth thousands of dollars and their means of getting to work, etc. and so forth, that is essentially stealing their livelihood. They cannot do that. $400 to somebody that's living paycheck to paycheck is killing them. So you might as well just shoot them. And some cops go that far. So yes, they justified 100%.
I3, what do you think?
Oh, I'm just learning about this tonight, unfortunately.
Oh, wow.
I'm sort of busy with other things, but I can say this, is that two things. A, most traffic stops, traffic misdemeanors are beyond the cop. They're this illegal and state enforced laws that need to be unconstitutional. They're all unconstitutional. And two, the GOP needs to, especially right-leaning libertarians that are in favor of certain types of a cop/police state, and of course the GOPers and Trumpers. They need to give me a good reason on why this was justified in the cops' favor. Because when I saw that video and the driver, David, said to the cops, just give me my ticket and let me go. He was willing to accept a crime and move out. So the GOPers are saying, hey, this is a point to why we need more cops. I'm like, do you not realize that the said cop is enforcing illegal laws that are going to eventually wind up costing someone's life, regardless if it's the potential person committing the crime or the cop? This is by privatizing roads. Might as well go that far, because if it was a private entity, a private property owner, they could have told David, hey, you're on private property. We know you have a record. We'll just let you go, but we've got your tag, we've got your license. You show up next time, we're going to shoot first and ask questions later. They could have let him go even without a ticket. But with Paxton Says, this is how the state enforces violence. They encourage and enforce state laws, traffic laws, speed limits, very bad ticketing laws that don't make sense. And then they run a tag, and car tags, I think, are unconstitutional as well. And, Dan does mention about the only state government document he has, a passport. I would go so far as to say the driver's license should be included in that. So the only state document one should have or need to have or file for is a driver's license. A car tag, car insurance, speed limits, or anything like that is illegal. And I don't care how many charges David had in the past. This right here, when he said, just give me my ticket and let me go, and the cops
giving him the ticket and let him go.
They to me, I cannot favor any person that favors the police when this happens. This was a white guy. Say his name. Say David Ware's name. They're not going to do that, especially the people that are complaining about blacks owning, blacks.
Well, we don't need to say his name. He's not dead. We need to say free David Ware.
Say his name. They're not going to say that because they're now caught up in this police state. They're saying, they're not looking at the police as enemies. They're looking at, he has a record. He has a rap sheet. I'm like, let's look at what happened now. You look at to me, if it was any other case, I would charge the two individuals with murder, basically if this role reversal where David was killed.
Yeah, if
only
this
charge
was
one of
different. Well, yeah.
Yeah, but this is the first time I've come across. But when David said, "Let me go, give you my ticket," it should have been the end of it. That's it, done. But no, the cops escalated that, and to me, the bad training, bad situational awareness. Where are these cops getting their training, by the way? This is Tulsa, the second largest city in Oklahoma and one of the largest cities in the Midwest, metro-wise. Do they not have better cop training than this? I am somewhat, somewhat perplexed about this. They train cops to kill. They don't train cops to de-escalate. And to me, that's one thing that a lot of Trumpers don't talk about is, we don't want to defund the police. This is how you actually reform police, is de-escalate the situation where you don't have to have more and more police, because the police that are already there can de-escalate the situation and give the person a ticket and move on. But no, they don't. And you got, a death and wrongful conviction, and the whole thing is going to blow out the proportion, because now you're going to have a more police state brought on by more protests, and eventually you're going to have police departments load up on what you said before, Mike, is they want to play military, and it's like, no, we don't need to play military. We already have that. So for me, I'm going along with Paxton's.
We don't need that either.
Yeah, exactly. So I appreciate you showing me this video. I've been caught up on other things, but it's just.
I'll link you to the whole video. It's about 11 minutes long, and it shows the whole lead up and everything. I just couldn't get it to upload with my shitty internet for the use of the show tonight.
But anyway,
I had to do the small clips. What do you? Okay, so you definitely think that it's justified that he shot them then?
Yes.
Okay, for now at least.
For now at least, until more information comes out, then I can, change my opinion accordingly.
What do you think? What do you think, Jay?
All right, this is the unpopular hot take section of my commentary. I do not think he was justified in employing deadly force to defend himself in that situation, because it's not legally or maybe morally pertinent that the police were the ones that caused offense initially. If you go with something, and I'm not a lawyer, but it would seem to me that the objective reasonable person standard would say, was he actually in fear of his life? Did he think that the police were going to kill him on the side of the road? If it's two, gangsters from North Tulsa trying to pepper spray you and pull you out of your car, you have every reason to believe that they are trying to harm or kill you. And then the shooting would clearly be justified. But two uniformed officers who've pulled you over, I don't think you can make that argument. Now, absolutely, the police were wrong to have escalated. They were wrong to do the initial, past the initial stop where they said, hey, don't pull out like that. That was an illegal whatever turn. If everything had gone correctly, they at worst would have given him a ticket and said, be careful, see you around. And that would have been the end of it. I will also say, if David Ware had, and this is where everybody's going to hate what I'm saying, I'm not saying if he had complied, even non-compliant, if he had not pulled out a gun and shot them, he would have eventually gotten a huge settlement from the city of Tulsa. Does anybody else think that might have been true?
Yeah.
Well, here's the problem with that, though. When you say, like, oh, well, if it was two gangsters from North Tulsa, I would rather take my chances with the gangsters than the police, honestly. Like, we look at all of these people every single day getting shot by cops, and you have to think, am I going to be next? The police are probably one of the most deadly institutions in this country. So I think that in any interaction you have with the police, where the police are being even somewhat aggressive towards you, fear for your life is 100% a justified reaction.
That said, I think David Ware's reaction and the way he handled the situation easily contributed to the continuing escalation. And I'm not saying that you should just kiss the cop's ass and do everything they say, yes sir, no sir. I'm saying that if he had just been polite, maybe, okay, I'll get out of the car, here's my wallet, anything that
can't
happened past
do
that point, he would have won in court.
You can't do that. If it was any other situation, two people armed at your door, you better
But
not
it
be getting
wasn't.
out of that car.
But it wasn't. It was
These
the
are
Tulsa
two
Police
beings.
Department.
So
It
why
doesn't
why
matter.
is
They get a
Tulsa
special
Police Department
badge, and that
special?
allows them to drag you out of the car. No, these are people that can execute
yes.
you and get
Why
all
does a piece of brass
This
make
is
you
not-
above people?
This isn't
Well-
to you can make a joke about them being road pirates and all that. Like it or not,
It's not a joke.
they were the legal authority in the state. He
But are
did
they
not.
the moral authority?
No, not saying this at all. Don't misconstrue me. I'm saying what the cops did was absolutely wrong and contributed to the escalation of the situation. I'm saying a reasonable person would not have thought, I'm going to die right now if I do what they say.
Man,
A reasonable
don't
person
agree.
would have said, oh crap, here I go. I'm going to get hassled because of my prior conviction. They're going to give me a ticket. They're going to toss my car, blah, blah, blah. You wouldn't have thought he was going to die. He wouldn't have thought he was going to die. So
Brian Whitaker
think
didn't think he was going to
deadly
die when he opened
force,
the door.
the deadly force continuum that the cops always talk about is that you are one step ahead of the other. He would have had no reason to escalate to deadly force at that time. Now,
my question here
the beating and the pepper spray make it a
my-
little fuzzy,
The
but
list of people
My
that have died to the
question
police
here
and did not
is-
expect it is a
well,
very long and
yeah.
extensive list.
sure.
That's
They
what I
are
was
a
about to
death
ask. I was about to say, like, how many times do we have to, like, publicly witness these people getting away with executing civilians before we are actually afraid of them? And some of us are actually afraid of them. And those of us who have priors are definitely afraid of them. It doesn't matter whether you're white or black, they will still fuck you up.
Let's
And-
just
Like, the thing is, if they're willing to pepper spray you and tase you and manhandle you over a fucking ticket, you can't trust what they're going to do next because they're already behaving violently and escalating against you over something arbitrary. In which case, is a fucking traffic ticket an excuse to assault a human being? Like, where is that fucking okay? Like, if that's legal, okay, fine. Well, I don't consent to that. I don't consent to that at all. And I don't give a shit about any law that backs that as okay.
And
Like,
that's
I
the line
just
where
don't.
the libertarians and anarchists.
And that's where the line is, I
That's what I'm
guess.
saying. Again, I need to say this for the umpteenth time. The police
Yeah.
in this situation were clearly wrong.
He could have
I'm
been
also
smarter,
saying
but
he made the choice to go to deadly force. The police did not pull out guns. They were not beating him in the head with batons.
By that point, it's too
I-
late.
Okay, but they weren't.
Once
They
their
wanted him
hands
out of
are
the
on
car.
guns, you might
So
as well
whenever
be
they're
dead.
Whatever.
choking you, then you can pull out the firearm.
What's that?
Whenever
I-
they're choking you, then you can pull out the firearm.
Well, if they were choking him and it needs that would,
well,
yeah.
that's what's happened after. Like, the guy here in
I know.
Arkansas that was
It's a
attacked,
no-win situation. I'm just telling you that
I want to make sure that I have a chance to sue them later. I don't care if I lose the chance to sue them later. I want to be alive to sue them later because there have been too many chances where people tried to do what they wanted them to do and they still fucking killed you.
I'm just basing this opinion of mine off of what I have seen so far. And it just looked to me like I said, there's no winners
Yeah, I mean,
in this one.
maybe
there's
if
no
you
clear-
knew-
Guy getting beat down by the cops for no reason. There are people who have been killed for no reason who tried to comply. Absolutely, Paxton. I mean, Philando Castile was a huge, event that not enough people talk about. The guy tried to comply in every way possible and they shot him.
So I think, and I don't want what I said to be misconstrued as something like what Paxton was saying. I don't think that any party was good in this. As I said, a person dying or multiple people dying is obviously the least desirable account of,
Well, yeah.
and that's the least desirable result in any human interaction, somebody being dead at the end of it. But I do believe that knowing that how police handle these things, and knowing that his life could have been ended by them, and there's a precedent set by other police agencies where killing people for little to no reason is a normal thing now, he had reason to be fearful for his life. And if he had reason to be fearful for his life, and somebody is grabbing you or pepper spraying you or tasing you, you don't want to wait for them to be the first ones to shoot. You shouldn't have to wait till you get shot. You shouldn't have to wait till there are holes in you to be able to react with the amount of force necessary to save yourself. So while I don't think this was a good interaction, I think that this was an instance of self-defense.
And I may change my mind tomorrow. I may sleep on it. I may see more video. It's just hard to go into that guy's state of mind.
Did you
And
see
that's
the
where
long one?
that's
Do you
where a
want
lot of
me to
these court
listen to
cases go, is what was the defendant's state of mind at the time? Because if you can show, if his defense attorney can show he was legitimate in fear for his life, he should
looked
walk.
scared. He was
Right?
like screaming and crying and shit like that. People tried to pass this off as a fucking calculated, cold act. There was nothing calculated or cold about it. He was
No, the cops
begging
were
them to
calculated and
stop
cold.
and begging them, "Why are you doing this to me?" Like, it was very clear that he was not okay, and that he was in a lot of pain, and that he was he didn't understand what was going on. He was scared at that point because, like, and at the beginning, he didn't act like he was expecting them to get violent. He acted annoyed, but that's not what people do with armed individuals when they think they're going to get violent. That's what they think when you're about to get hassled. Like, I don't think any of this was premeditated at all.
But what they're
And the
going to
fact that they
show,
want to go for the death penalty on this boy is fucking ridiculous. And I think that if we allow them to go for the death penalty on this boy, it's going to create a precedent that is incredibly dangerous.
what they're going to show is the last 30 seconds of the video where he is executing the police officer at the end.
And
Yeah,
there's
that's
that
what
little
they
scream,
started with.
"Ah!"
They didn't
and then
want
they're
to
gonna be
release
sad
all of it,
police.
and then they encouraged the fucking public
The
not to
defendant did.
watch it. Like, they actually went around saying, "Don't watch this video. If you don't fucking have to," and stuff. And I'm like, oh my god, there's so many people who are just gonna listen to them and be like, "I don't want to watch that video." And the reason why they don't want people to watch the whole video is because they don't want to watch how much escalation these cops did. It was out of hand. Like, there is literally no reason. They were aggressive to the start. Like, there's a point where the cop is literally just shaking the weapon at him, going, "Taser! Taser!" And I'm like, that just doesn't sound like a person who's thinking clearly at all. And if cops are going to be like constantly fearing for their lives and screaming at civilians like that, they either need a lot more fucking training, or we need to start picking people who are not going to fucking lose their shit when somebody won't get out of their car. Because I don't know what world we live in where the act of saying no to a police officer about getting out of your car should end in them fucking physically assaulting you multiple times.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know.
Not right.
More. I mean, why can't you say no to a police officer and says, "No, officer, I will not get out of the car"?
The sad thing is that was a supervisor.
Yeah,
that was the escalation to the management, and that's how they decided to treat it. Now there's two people that are shot over this.
And back to what Mike was saying about like how we need to get different police officers. I'll never forget that image in my mind.
Well, I personally think we need to get rid of the police officers.
Well, yeah, obviously. But like that image of in the middle of a protest, looking down the barrel of a cop's shotgun, and in the background, I see this big ass banner against the building. Now hiring Phoenix Police Department. Like that just summarizes this entire police violence bullshit that we've been going through for the past decades. It's just overly aggressive people who like to beat their wives, and a couple of good ones too, who get thrown into a mix, treated like shit, and they treat everybody else like shit. That's all this is.
Well, I mean, I watched these fucking these fucking Tulsa police people somebody threw like an empty fucking can at them, and they decided that that was the go to assault an entire crowd of fucking people with like
So-
tear gas and shit.
That's the
That's
same
their
thing. They
line.
threw a water bottle at the cops at this event, and then all of a sudden they're shooting pepper balls at journalists. Like,
So
Yeah,
if that's their line of escalation, if you can throw an empty can or a water bottle at a police officer and they can start discharging pepper balls on you, I'm just not seeing where you have to wait for them to be choking you out before you can apply lethal force.
well, to
The
be
moment
honest,
that
I
I'm
didn't
fearful of
see
my
where the
life, and I
police-
believe that includes livelihood, that
well, and to you bootlickers out there, they're like, well, they were just protecting the public. You know, no,
That
they
wasn't
were
even
not.
blocked two
No,
police
they
officers.
threw, like out there when we were in Tulsa talking about the protests and shit. Like they fucking they put gas into moving traffic, for Christ's sakes. They don't give a shit about the public.
Basically, yeah.
The
Basically,
whole thing with this is you made things less safe with this interaction. You caused
You
two
always
police
make
officers,
things less
one
safe.
to die and one to get very critically injured over this. That made them less safe. You're not including police officers in this situation. If you get more police officers to pull more people over, there's going to be more deadly and hostile interactions. That's just statistically how things work. Not everybody is going to be bootlickers, and there are going to be outright evil people out there doing things that they don't
That
want
too,
the
yeah.
police officers to be around them. That's just going to happen. There's going to be more deaths. There's going to be more harm. Having more police is not the answer, and having police escalating the situation is definitely not the answer.
I wanted to mention I was doing a
Sorry, I
little
didn't
side
mean to
reading
fucking
while
roll over
we're
you
talking.
like that. I'm very passionate about that.
No. I was just going to mention the charges against Ware are kind of
JT.
dumb. First degree murder, that's purely political from the DA. This wasn't first degree murder in anybody's legal definition. He did not go out driving around thinking, I'm going to kill me some cops. That didn't happen. What they will probably try to get to stick for real is the shooting with intent to kill, which is a different felony. You know, the controlled substance and then the felon in possession. They'll probably try to ring him up on those. I don't see how they make first degree murder stick.
And if this was an illegal search of the, like, if this was an illegal stop, I don't see how that evidence
That's
for
the other
controlled
thing, and-
substance would be viable either.
Right. You can get rid of the fruit of the poison tree if you say the whole stop was illegal and the search was illegal. So they would. Now, he displayed the firearm himself. So, you know, felon in possession, he can't avoid that. I'm not saying those laws are correct.
Yeah.
Right.
But
I'm like,
obviously
no,
this is
he
just
can't
what's gonna
avoid that.
happen.
It shouldn't be something that he should have to avoid, because continuing to deperson felons after their punishment, it institutionalizes their behavior and forces them to act like they're subpar humans. Like, how do you want somebody to act rehabilitated, but then you treat them like they are not? Like, for not just a couple of years, fucking, what is it, like 13 years here or 15 years here? Or
It's
something.
forever here.
In some places it is forever, and they don't even, it's not just their guns, they lose their ability to vote.
In Arizona, if you commit a felony, you are a felon, and you lose your rights, and they never come back. And you can't even go to a court and get them expunged. Arizona does not expunge felonies, period. So if you get caught doing something that's a felony, which in modern times could be literally fucking anything, you can lose your human rights for the rest of your life without any chance to get them back unless you move to a different state.
Oof.
Big oof.
This is a crap situation.
It really is a crap situation. Like, we can all say what we think should happen, but we don't know. And like, honestly, I don't think that there's gonna be a good turnout. If they do try to put that boy up for fucking murder, though,
I think it's
we need to be
October
out
8th is
there
his court session.
yelling about it. That's not fucking right.
October 8th, I believe, is his court session, last I read.
Paxton, you
October
better
8th
be
at night.
outside that building with the sign.
Now, you did, to make Paxton feel better, do we want to tell him about the other TPD officer that got indicted?
I haven't actually heard about this.
There's another video floating around where TPD is executing a traffic stop. The driver drives away.
Oh
Just
yeah, and they shoot.
puts
into
on the
back of
gas,
it.
and the cop draws and fires at the vehicles it's driving away, and they indicted that officer for reckless discharge. He tried to tell the supervisor, well, I was, in the door of the car, and they tried to drive away, and he
was scared for his life.
And the body cam was like, no, you weren't. There was no danger to this guy at all. He just drew, and if you look at his body cam, he doesn't start firing until the vehicle is like, a whole car length away from him. In the middle of the street. So he's not a cop anymore.
Oh
That's
yeah,
good.
that's always good.
For
One
now.
less.
But see, that's
Like,
part of the
that's
problem,
the
though,
thing,
is he can
because-
still likely get a job elsewhere.
That's why libertarians
Oh,
like
dude,
me support police reforms, but actual police reforms.
Yeah.
Bond and or insurance required to
Reform
act
them right
as a
the
law
fuck up
enforcement
the hole.
officer in any capacity, such that if you get, you have one bad shoot, you have one bad interaction, and you lose your insurance, you're done. And that, because what happens here in Oklahoma and probably everywhere else, cop gets a bunch of complaints, cop gets in trouble, cop costs the city money, cop gets fired even. He goes to the next county over, and now he's a deputy, And there's a few things we could do that would just, eliminate
What-
qualified immunity and
I've-
require a bond or
Yeah.
insurance card of some sort, and that will sort itself out.
What
Toot sweet.
pisses me off here is that it's another example of them throwing the book at people. Like if a civilian does something to a police officer, they instantly try to up the ante. Like what we were talking about with San Diego last week. They gave this guy like 7 counts of felony counts of like using tear gas on a cop, and even though it was the cop spray, they gave him the fucking possession felony on that too, and they have this guy sitting in there for high ass fucking bail, almost as high as fucking murder. And when they kill one of us, they get low ass fucking bail, they get paid fucking vacation. We have released cop footage out there right now that happened over the past came out over the past couple of weeks of these cops who think their fucking body cams are turned off, talking about how they need to shoot one of these Hell's Angels dudes so that they can get a vacation and shit like that. And they're not joking, because at one point they're like, oh shit, do we have our body cams turned off? And the guy was like, yeah, I turned them off. And they just continue doing it like it's fine. They're not even fucking, they don't view us as people. We should have seen that in Florida when they were using civilians as body shields. And still
one
ended
time.
up shooting the fucking hostage.
I heard something recently about that they were like finally
And the
pressing
guy who was
charges.
down the street too.
And
Mike?
I'm just going to say, I've known personally a police officer who mistreated people in one jurisdiction, got a bunch of complaints. That wasn't what did him in. What did him in, by the way, why he actually got fired was talking shit about his boss. So he got sacked over at this jurisdiction, skips across the valley. Now he's working somewhere else. This cop also beat his wife and abused his children. So
I'm not trying to
these
be
are the
biased
people
or
that
anything.
we're
Like
fucking doing.
when cops do just defend themselves and stuff like that, and it's fair, I'm gonna back it. Like that guy in Pennsylvania who shot that guy with the knife, who was looking like some crazy PCP motherfucker. Like people like that don't go down when you tase them. You need to fucking defend yourself. And I backed that. I mean, that dude had every right to defend himself just like every other human.
But he doesn't have special rights above what would be
No.
expected from a normal human. And that's
Right.
what I think we need to get across. They're just people, and we should hold them to the same fucking standards. If it's okay for a random person to do it, it's okay for a cop to do it. If it's not okay for a random person to do it, it should not be okay for a cop to do it.
We'll let Jay make a
final-
comment.
Not
I
doing
just
it
said
Mike,
correctly.
shut up. We'll let Jay
One,
make a
one
final
final thought. If we all Google Robert Peel's principles of policing for when he formed the London Metropolitan Police Department back in the 19th century,
Mhm.
the idea was The Met Police are simply full-time professional enforcers of the law, similar to what any citizen had been doing up to that point. They had no special privilege in the law. They had no special protection, and they chose the color blue to differentiate them from the Army, which wore the red coat. They did not want to be military. They didn't want anyone confused with it. And the way that Peel sold the idea was he's like, you know, all the good people of the town have been enforcing the law on their own and blah, blah, blah. All we're going to do is professionalize the vigil. And
Yeah, now they can get
that's
paid
where it
for
should have stayed. But you know, clearly that's what we've gotten away from.
And that's what
And I
we
think
need
it-
policing to be,
I
if
mean-
it exists at all.
Right.
I say we just
If
go
there was
back to
something like
sheriffs
that-
putting bounties on motherfuckers.
And that's what qualified immunity has made impossible.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Again,
I mean,
we
I
just
think we
need to
can
fucking
all
care.
agree on those. Our common ground here is that there needs to be more accountability. Like we may disagree on how much accountability and stuff like that, but you know, like because I'm like get rid of all of them, and you're like reform them, and everybody else is like somewhere in between. But like, you know, regardless of how much we want it changed, we all agree that it needs to be fucking reformed in one form or fashion, whether that means making some alterations or wiping it the fuck out.
So
It's not good now.
real quick, just speaking of well, fighting against the police, the family of the UPS driver from that UPS Florida shootout where they were using civilians as body shields,
Yeah.
it is confirmed here. This is a September 16th article. Family of UPS driver slain in police shootout files lawsuit.
Good.
Yeah.
I mean, what money, like, what monetary number could you put on a fucking life? Like, if somebody tried to offer me money to make it better after they, like, killed you in some sort of fucking accident or something like that, or, like, Sean or whatever, I'd take that money and use it to do something good, but it wouldn't fucking fix anything.
Well, didn't the city, is it Minneapolis, pay out a family $12 million or something like that? And that was taxpayer money.
But what this means, yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say, is what this means is whenever a police officer misbehaves, the community pays for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Not
I'm gonna
the
see you
police
guys
officer.
later. I have to go.
All right.
But yeah, fuck policing as an institution. We just need sheriffs. That's my contribution. And adios.
One of the things that you did have an interesting take that I wanted to bring up before we did in the night and everything, if you guys are into that, was like something that like the wood chipper thing bugs the shit out of me because I think that it's too violent. I think that people are just like desensitizing themselves to stuff and they're going to end up doing things that they regret. Somebody's going to do something they regret. I don't think that we should abide by like pedos or anything like that, but I really don't think we should get off like be using such fucking glorified violence. I think we should just get rid of them and move on. And I know that like Paxton loves the fucking wood chipper shit. And Jay had a different take on it, and I like wanted to fucking put that out there because he's not the only person I've heard say stuff like this, but he puts it pretty eloquently.
Did I say something cool? And now I forgot.
Yeah, when we were talking, and you were like talking about
had
how
to
we were
do with
depersoning people and we're worried about
libertarians.
it.
Yeah, it had to do with libertarians and other folk such as that basically calling for extrajudicial killings as a form of it's basically lynching, right, by wood chipper. So if you think, that guy's a pedo, you know, we don't go with due process, we don't go with anything like that, we just throw him in the chipper. I mean, I don't
What
think
do we-
there's that many people that actually intend to go through with that, but
The whole point of the wood chipper thing is to actively go against the groups of maps that are out there. What is happening is that I don't want to say we, but the fringes of the
Society?
left are normalizing pedophilia. They're trying to make it okay to like people underage. They're okay with trying to normalize this age fluid people. fuck that noise. No.
There are
That's
headlines
not
out
normal.
there.
It's not okay. And there will be people that will resist that stuff. We will protect the children. If the police aren't going to do it because their local authorities are going to make these things legal, like they have done in California now. They recently passed a bill where it's okay for there to be, I want to say it was like a 10-year gap between specifically males, that it could be gay male sex, essentially, as long as it was at a 10-year gap and it was consensual. It was all perfectly fine. And it was to the age limit of 14, I want to say. So from 14, you could have all the way up to a 24-year-old. Fucking absolute madness. Fuck that noise. So no, that's not okay. So the whole point of the wood chipper thing is essentially the rattling of the sabers. It's there to make sure that they understand that there's not going to be people that are going to sit idly by, that they should be afraid. They do need to keep through their dark corners, and we're not going to normalize this. It's not going to be okay.
It's like a very aggressive no.
Yes. As it should be.
I'm torn because, like, I don't want to encourage, like, fucking lynchings and shit. But on the other hand, I had to deal with the fact that the system will not protect you, and that there are there's kids like Sophie who get brought up and it hits the internet and people take action and it gets forced into the light. But there's even more people who, there's even more kids out there that are just hoping that someone will fucking notice. Like, I literally fucking drank bleach one day thinking, well, if this doesn't fucking kill me, then maybe someone will notice something's fucking wrong. I wasn't even fucking 10, and still nobody fucking noticed me. How many other kids are out there not being fucking noticed? And it's like, if I came across a situation like that where we couldn't fucking find a way to save a kid, fuck yeah, I'd kill somebody. I would kill somebody to save a kid. From what people have to go through out there. Yeah.
But due process, Mike.
But, like, I would have to know. I wouldn't just be like, oh, well, someone posted this on Facebook. Let's go kill the motherfucker. Like, I'd have to know. You'd have to show me some fucking proof, as much as I wouldn't want to fucking see that. And I think that a lot of people agree that, like, they wouldn't just go off the fucking handle and kill somebody off of a fucking Facebook post. I would like to think that most people know better. That's just retarded. But I can't promise that if I came across a situation and I had actual proof about it and I knew something bad was going on and they weren't going to fucking help this kid or whatever, that I wouldn't fucking do something about it. Because, I've lived a good long life. I'm not going to let a kid fucking go through that shit. It changes everything in your future. The way you can see shit. It destroys things that can never be fucking returned. And maybe I'm too close to it. Maybe it's too personal to me.
Which means you should like the wood chipper more.
No, I think that's giving them too much attention. Fuck that. Just fucking put one in their head and dump them in Cato. And just leave it. Don't ever think about that motherfucker again.
Okay, now you're getting too personal. Like, calm the fuck down, Mike. Like, Jesus fuck. Anyway, yeah, wood chipper. It's the most economic, and I personally like what i3 added to it. We should 3D print it, and we should crowdsource it with Bitcoin.
I don't know if it'll hold up.
We'll find a way. It's fine.
The parts. You need metal parts.
That could be
vibrating.
Each machine to. This is just like 3D printing a gun. All you need is some parts to CNC, and the rest could be 3D printed expertly. That's already been done several times.
So you need the wood chipper to be able to chip itself, reproduce itself like the MakerBot.
We'll do nano 3D printed wood chippers that will self-replicate.
Self-aware, self-replicating wood chippers.
Yeah, they'll reform and reproduce themselves off of the pedophiles. That's what they'll take their resources.
They use the pedophile as material.
Exactly.
Okay.
I do get that
There's nothing wrong that could ever go.
a very aggressive no, and it works. It upsets motherfuckers out there. And
Yeah, you find out really quickly who's pro maps, and that's what
Yeah.
the whole point of it is. Like, oh well, you don't understand. You know, some people are just fuck you. No, fuck you. I don't give a shit what your reasoning is. If you want to have sex with children, I hope you die, and I hope it's violent. And Jay is just like, I really want to leave. I don't have my lawyer in the room, and
You know, I have to run this past the PR department, but you know,
God.
I think there's a big difference between having thoughts in your brain that you didn't ask to be there. I'm not, you know, and acting on them. Clearly, acting on them
Yeah,
is
last
never going to be
episode,
okay.
I mentioned that I was like, look, if you have that illness in you and you fight it and you haven't done a goddamn thing, I don't fucking care about you. Don't fucking do it. Because the moment you fucking do, you're on the radar. But like, I will back your ass until you fucking do. Because I'm not going to let somebody murder somebody over a thought crime that they haven't fucking committed yet. That's stupid. But if you're out there encouraging it, supplying it, being part of it, or anything like that, fuck you and your fucking fight. I don't trust that you're even fighting it. Like there's people out there doing that, and they don't like it applies to you. If you fucking help people fucking imbibe this nastiness or create it or anything like that, you're just as fucking guilty. And these people out there who are like trying to normalize it from the fringes, because it is the fringes. Like this sort of thing, like the cutie shit, that pissed off people on the left and the fucking right. Everyone was pulling out their fucking wood chippers at that point. Nobody was okay with that. Only the fringe left and the fucking media.
oddly a
have a
large amount of
problem with
people from
this.
Hollywood and politicians. It's really weird.
Yeah, there was actually a headline out there where they were like, what was it? It was fucking horrific. They were like, people are afraid of child sexuality, and I'm like, yes, everyone should be afraid of this. Oh my god!
There's a guy on YouTube, I bet you called My Two Cents. He's mostly an anarchist, but he was downplaying, or actually disagreeing with, and trying to refute a recent magazine article that brought up why cuties is not necessarily what everybody thinks it is. So Reason Magazine is semi-defending cuties, especially this author.
They can kiss my fucking ass. I watched that goddamn movie because I didn't give any money to anybody, but I watched it, and the only reason why I did was so that I could tell the people around me what the fuck was actually in it, because I don't trust the media to actually tell us the fucking truth, and nobody should. You can't let somebody tell you something and then just nod your head along with it like a bobblehead. And it fucking, I had to stop and throw up. This is a very personal situation for me, so I don't know if everybody would stop and throw up, but I literally stopped and threw up. It caused me to have fucking problems. It was not a good time. It took me fucking 3 days to get through it. But there is no way in hell that someone's going to tell me that this fucking movie had some sort of ulterior motive that was different than what it fucking was presented to be. No. And if you have any doubt in your mind, you go fucking pirate that shit, because don't give them any goddamn money. Don't you give them one fucking dime. If you need help pirating it, I will show you how.
Well, here's the thing,
You
Mike.
go fucking look at that piece of shit and see what they did.
Because of the publicity of this, a lot of conservatives are, to me, a lot of conservatives kind of screwed up in this way. Is now, unfortunately, it's torrented, it's on Tor, and it's with back channels to where you can download this shit on porn sites.
Well, yeah, now all the pedos are going to have free access.
That was going to happen no matter what.
But that was going to happen. That always happens. Information is free, and it must flow like the spice.
There's a double-edged sword. If there was no shit show about this, it would not be everywhere. But now there's a shit show about this. It's everywhere. So
it's a controversy, so it's blown up.
Now that's blown up, and now that people want to cancel Netflix, well, go ahead. It's still going to be available. You can use a VPN to get it.
Yeah, but people are voting with their dollars, though. And that
Yeah, we
sends
should
them.
still cancel Netflix. To
But-
be honest, I'm gonna be fucking goddamn honest. If we can't cancel Netflix, we need to burn it to the ground.
Well, you
At
know,
this point,
Mike Dunn,
it's just gone too fucking far.
Mike Dunn said in one of his videos about their address, their physical location.
Yeah, I saw that.
They do have a physical location. It's in a particular area in Silicon Valley, and that's all he was going to say. But, you know, you can go there and protest. It's not like, oh, cancel Netflix. Oh, there's going to be another controversy like this. In order for it to stop, you have to go to the source. You have to go to Netflix's headquarters to protest.
And I know we get some fucking hits from California, and and it's been for a while now, so there are some fucking Californians out there watching this shit.
Yeah.
You need to listen to what we have been saying all along and be the person who fucking starts it if it's not fucking out there. And if it is out there, go fucking find it. You're not gonna find it sitting in here watching YouTube though. Go out fucking side, go to your neighborhood meetings, go explore and figure out what's happening and get involved there, because like you guys are the ones at ground zero. You need to be stomping on the ground and waving your fucking signs and screaming. The rest of us will do what we can by like voting with our dollar and shit like that. And like if it goes on too long, we'll fucking come join you.
Okay, now tell them how they can give us money for a wood chipper, and then we can close it.
You do it. You're better because I ramble. First of all, like and subscribe to our shit because it's good, I guess. I'm going to cut this into some clips, but it's been taking me a little longer to get them up because the internet in my...
You're right, you do ramble.
the
So
internet is
anyway,
so
like and
bad.
subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter. All the links are below, including Jay and Dan's. Thank you for joining us tonight, Jay, and being our libertarian punching bag for the evening. We do appreciate your opinions.
We do actually.
I can take it. I have a lot of points.
You're one of the only people who can sit down with us and disagree and not be like, you fucking heathen anarchists. Get the fuck
Well,
go to
because you're the
Somalia."
right kind of anarchists. We've already had that conversation, right? Not all people who say they're anarchists are legit.
Yeah.
So yeah, going on from there, we are trying to save up money for a wood chipper. If you will please go to our coin tree that provides all the Bitcoin, Ethereum, all the various other locations where you can buy our stuff. We have a whole bunch of merch that's out, different t-shirts talking about Donald Trump, Bernie Sanders. We have our new t-shirt out that I'm a really big fan out. Shoot the police with cameras. Unless they're doing things that, well, never mind. Shoot the police with cameras and only cameras.
Yeah, shoot with cameras.
Otherwise, yeah, just keep liking and subscribing. We're here every single Monday at 7:30. If there's any particular topics you want us to talk about, feel free to send us a message on Twitter. If you want to come on the show at some point, if you have some kind of business or organization, anything like that you want to kind of get out to the public and have conversations about your business and various political ideals, we'd love to have you on the show. We enjoy talking to people of different ideals. If you are a police officer, retired, active duty, lawyer, anything like that, we'd love to have you on the show as well. We'll try not to be as mean as possible to you. Antifa people, I guess, if we have to.
Reach out to me, my Antifa. And honestly, I'd love to get an ANCOM in here to fucking talk to us, but you got to prove that you're not going to fucking re out the door the moment we disagree with you.
I prefer to have people that are above the age of 16, Mike, but it is what it is. Like and subscribe, give us money. Let's get a wood chipper going. Thank you guys. We will see you guys next week.
Yes, thank you guys. Thank y'all for coming. Be safe and be free. This episode of Spilling the LiberTEA